away. You stayed away too long. Baby, what can I say? No one does me wrong and gets away with it. Mutiny, taking back the ship. Mutiny, should have been a little more hip.
So should have.
Mutiny, mutiny, mutiny.
Second verse.
Baby, when you talk to me, you don't have much to say. Baby, you can never be like the ones of yesterday. Why? Mutiny! We're taking back the ship. Mutiny! Should have been a little more hip.
Say it again.
Mutiny!
They ain't heard you.
Mutiny!
One more time.
Mutiny!
Boy, please come to.
Baby, with unity, we would never fall. Never, baby. Now that unity, the court is in the bar.
Got the dome. Swing.
Mutiny, we're taking back the ship. Mutiny, you should have been a little more hip. Mutiny, mutiny. Mutiny!
One more time. Say.
Mutiny! Taking back the ship!
And we should have.
Mutiny! Should have been a little more hip!
You sure should have.
Mutiny!
Say it again.
Mutiny! Mutiny!
One more time.
Mutiny! You're taking back the ship!
Taking it back, y'all.
Mutiny! You should have been a little more hip! Mutiny! Mutiny! Mutiny!
One more chorus. I love that. One more again. Come on.
Mutiny! Taking back the ship! Mutiny! You should have been a little more hip! Mutiny! Mutiny! Mutiny!
talking to. White girl. White girl. Australian. White girl. White girl. Australian. White girl. Black girl. Australian. White girl. Black girl. Australian. Everybody dance. Talk to 'em. Roll like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. You gotta commit. Break it back down, commit. Can't sneak back up.
And welcome, everyone, to the first Opening Day 2021 show. We did one on Opening Day 2020 here on this channel. 2019, I don't think we did a show that day, but the channel's been around for a few years. How's everybody doing? Say hello in the chat room. Say hello on Twitter, on social media. My name is Seth Everett. I'll introduce myself, and I'm glad to be with you guys. And, I'll take any questions. You can always ask questions. You can follow me on Twitter. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Usually these shows all go to YouTube. What's up, Andrew? And that's my Instagram. I'm learning Instagram. I'm getting better at Instagram, and I have some big social media campaign that I got to do on Instagram. So I'm getting toward it nonetheless. But this begins my 27th season covering Major League Baseball. That's a crazy number. Makes me feel 100, even though I have been doing this. I started midstream, get it? Midstream, in the 1996 season. It was my first big league season. The first year I went into with a credential was 94. I was an intern with WFAN. Then in 1996, I moved out to Denver, Colorado, and I started getting involved with the Rockies. That was the second year of Coors Field, and that was when they were the Blake Street Bombers. And who did I cover then? It was Larry Walker and Dante Bichette and Eric Young and Vinny Castilla and the big cat, Andres Galarraga, and the manager was Don Baylor, the late great Don Baylor. He was wonderful. And the Rockies. 97, I covered the Rockies. Covered Larry Walker's MVP year. And then in 98, I covered up through the All-Star game because I got a new job working in Seattle, and I moved mid-season at the All-Star break. The Denver All-Star game was the last thing in Denver I covered for Denver. Then I went over to Seattle, and I worked with the Mariners, and that's where I got to know Ken Griffey Jr., Edgar Martinez, Jay Buhner, that whole crew. Couple of those Mariner players have been on this show in the past. And then through a stroke of luck in the year 2000, the Seattle Mariners played the Angels in Anaheim. What's up, man? Cybersecurity. What's your first name? I don't always get the names. I don't want to call you cybersecurity every time. So 2000, on the last day of the season, the Mariners played the Angels, and the Mariners played the Angels. They went not into extra innings, but went to the last day of the season, and if the Mariners won, they made the playoffs. Well, the Mariners won that game. They made the playoffs, and I wound up going to the playoffs. They played the White Sox, and then they played the Yankees, and I met the folks at Major League Baseball. face to face. They didn't know I was from the New York area, and through a stroke of luck, it was total stroke of luck. But I was there. That was the ALCS when David Justice hit the home run off Arthur Rhodes, and the Mariners lost. The Yankees went on to play the Mets in the 2000 World Series, and I wound up meeting the folks at Major League Baseball. And so 2001 to 2008, I worked for Major League Baseball. Then in 2008, I started doing Sirius XM. Then I started working. I got involved with a team again in 2011. Did Fox Sports Radio in between. Still do some Fox Sports Radio now. But now covered the Phillies in 2011. This picture, by the way, on my screen, Cookie Monster, is from 2004. That was one of the years I was there, and I went to Reds Phillies, and I just thought it looked gorgeous. And I was just looking for a picture that looked cool. I was going to try to make it the entire background, but I didn't know how to do that. It was hard. I thought about changing the picture, but then I was like, no, I like the coolness of that one picture. I have some Coors Field pictures that are really pretty. I have some Yankee Stadium pictures that are real pretty. But anyway, so and then I worked for the New York Mets in 2014. And since then, I've done NBC Sports Radio. Now I'm with iHeartMedia, and I am going to be attending a bunch of games. I thought about going to Braves Phillies. That's a game I'm going to keep an eye on today. No filters on the pick. That's from 2004 too. That's not even a phone pick. That was with a real camera. It wasn't like one of those professional cameras, but it was a real camera, and it was very cool. We had a camera. It was like I don't know, Nokia or something. It was a camera that you could then take the camera and plug it into your PC and download the pictures, and that's where that picture's from. And yeah, the opening day has always been a day for great optimism. It's been a really fun day, and I'm trying to feel the optimism. I'm trying to get involved. I'm trying to just get in the mode. Today's news, it was almost comical because if it didn't happen today, you would have thought there was something wrong. But a game was canceled because of COVID. Now, another game was canceled because of rain. And no, it was not a film camera. It was just a digital camera. It was a digital camera, state of the art for 2004. I couldn't remember. It was red. That's all I remember. I had those cameras, and I can tell a funny story about those. I once left a camera, like one of those disposable cameras, on my kitchen table in Denver, and I missed the day the Broncos lost to Jacksonville in 1996. I remember that was the year they went 13-3, and they did it, and they couldn't. I mean, I left the camera, and I was like, oh, they'll beat Jacksonville, and I didn't have the picture. I would have had up-close pictures of the Broncos in their old uniforms, and I screwed that up. But anyway, so today, I really did think this. If baseball didn't have a day where something COVID-related was going to happen, and it's the Nationals, it was the situation as such. A player with the Nationals tested positive. It turns out there were like 5 guys near him, and they couldn't go. Why they don't have the extra players, because every team was asked to have an auxiliary squad, and they were supposed to have an auxiliary squad, and they didn't. And I don't understand why. I didn't get a proper answer, because the Nationals, this is what I'm annoyed about the media, because all I saw was posturing from the Nationals GM. There wasn't an MLB official giving an official need or a rule as to why that game was canceled. And they said out of an abundance of caution, tomorrow they're not going to make it up. So the first Nationals-Mets game is going to be Saturday, which I thought was wild. Orioles-Red Sox was postponed because of actual normal reasons, which were the weather. That was all that was going on. There are 4 games going on right now. The Blue Jays and Yankees are 2-2 in the 6th. The Tigers lead the Indians 3-0. They're in the sixth. Top of the third, the Twins and Brewers are scoreless. The Pirates lead the Cubs 3-1, middle two. And like I said, the game that I was considering going to, and I'm keeping an eye on, the Braves and the Phillies. I wanted to see the Braves up close, and I love Philadelphia, and I love that ballpark. I didn't go to that ballpark last year. I only went local because of COVID, and I went to Yankee games last year. I went to 6 Yankee games last year, but that was it. Not because I was a fan, because they weren't having fans, but it was where I felt comfortable going, and I didn't travel as much. But anyway, that's all there is. I don't want to make the show about COVID a lot. I don't want to make a big deal about COVID, even though it is a big deal. What I'm hopeful, the two things I am hopeful for. Number one, they're using a new baseball this year. And what I have been able to ascertain is this ball is heavier and it's not going to travel as far. And if it turns out to be the case that home runs are down in this short sample size, will players as a collective start making more contact? Oh, I see Don there. Picaro, non-juice balls confirmed. Supposedly they're trying to do the opposite of juicing the balls. It's like they're draining the balls of whatever juice they had. That's the only way I can describe it. And in spring training, which is too small a sample size, they said that home runs are down. I don't care what baseballs they use. What I don't like about baseball in 2021, and like I said, this is not I'm the old man and I want baseball the way it used to be. What I don't like is I don't like that the players go out of their way to make sure the launch angle in which they swing is more important than keeping their eye on the ball. And when they swing, they try to swing up. And I don't know if it's to beat shift. I don't know the strategy, but there have been studies done that show that these players go out of their way. And it's not one or two guys. And that's why it's not a steroids thing. It turns into be so much of just worrying about this godforsaken launch angle that they do not give you enough of a reason to, at least from my perspective, strike out as much as they do. And it's just boring. And that's what I'm hoping. What I'm hoping is if players are saying that they're making contact with this fakakta launch angle and the ball's not traveling, then can we change our approach? And so that if you get 2 strikes, can you choke up on the bat and make contact? And that's all I want. Picaro says so many strikeouts. That's the argument. That to me is the root of the problem. And, you can get into a bigger thing with marketing and you can talk about stars and you can do all those things. But the fact of the matter is that there needs to be more action in this sport. And so that's the thing I'm so curious to see is if these new baseballs actually turn into something that is legitimately turn out and just use some kind of argument for contact. Give me that. Just give me that. How many, Andrew says, how many arm injuries to pitchers before the MLB Players Union files a grievance about the heavier baseball? See, I don't think anybody will because the pitchers will get more results. I think the pitchers want that. I do. I think the pitchers want this ball. And I think you start to see better numbers. Now, what I also don't need to see are the overwhelming amounts of strikeouts. from the pitching side too, because if there's no offense and it's all strikeouts, well then now we're having a little bit of a trouble. That would bother me. That would get to a point where that would irritate me. But so far, that hasn't been the case so far. Like I said, the games have been somewhat normal so far. Like I said, I've seen bits and pieces here and there, trying to flip between games and getting ready for this show. 2-2 Yankees, Blue Jays. They're after 6, top 6. Tigers lead the Indians 3-0. The Twins lead the Brewers interleague early. Love interleague early. 2-0, and the Pirates lead the Cubs 3-1. So that's the story. We do have some guests coming up. We have Ray Carcillo, who he's a guy. He's a great dude. He worked with me at ESPN, and now he's a video game designer. And we're going to find out what games he has. And he also has his own Twitch channel where he does play-by-play of games that he plays. Now, on my Twitch channel, and by the way, if you follow this Twitch channel, we play a lot of NHL 21 these days. A lot. And, oh, my God, that is so fun. I can't talk about it enough. If you go to my channel and you see the video we did yesterday, I played 2 hockey games, and you saw me just, like, thrilled. I had so much fun, and I promised the guys over at Twitch, I said, look, I will do talk shows. I will continue to do talk shows, but can I stream hockey games? And they were like, totally. I was like, nice. That's fun. So I set up the Xbox, and I'm not going to do it today, but maybe tomorrow we'll play some hockey, and we'll do just that. That should be a lot of fun. Last time we did a show, we did NCAA March Madness, and I know the Final Four is this weekend, but being that it's Thursday, and I like that it's April 1st, not March, I'm excited about baseball getting underway. I'm curious to see how this goes. Like I said, Orioles, Red Sox doesn't bother me because that's rain. Mets, Nationals, that's COVID. And if you remember last year, Juan Soto tested positive, and he was out of Yankees, Nationals. You remember that? And that was one of those weird ones. And for opening day, it's funny. Opening day has always been the start of a grind. And, I remember being opening day when you're with a team. I think it's even better. Opening day when you're with the league, it just feels like your whole world has changed. It feels like everything is back to like full throttle, whereas in the off season, everything is half throttle. And spring training is arduous, and it's fun for a couple of days, but it gets really, really boring really, really fast. And so that's kind of the way that happens. As far as the other big thing with baseball, my other issue is the upcoming labor situation, which I have been talking about for years now. The labor story has been ugly as can be. And I think that what their problem is I think that they are diametrically opposed to each other, and they don't know how to fix this game. And the commissioner of baseball has done a lot of work trying to show that he's addressing the boringness that baseball has had. He wrote a letter to fans. I just want to read you part of his letter. And I know Rob Manfred for decades. I used to hang out with him when he was a lawyer for Major League Baseball, and I worked for MLB. He says, on the field, I can't wait to see the incredible stars of our sport playing the game at a remarkably high level. From veteran MVP caliber players like Mike Trout and Mookie Betts to young stars like Fernando Tatis Jr., Juan Soto, and Ronald Acuna Jr., to name just a few, our fans will be watching outstanding athletes who will be remembered for generations. With storylines everywhere for our fans, a new marquee rivalry in Southern California, the star power of the NL East, the return of Trey Mancini, the excitement of Shohei Ohtani, The chases for 3,000 by Miguel Cabrera and Max Scherzer, and the many All-Stars debuting with new teams. It's a great time for baseball. I'll put that in the chat. And I'm sorry. I don't see what he sees. I don't see, if you're going to talk about stars, Tatis, got a lot of headlines. There's no secret about that. Juan Soto is a great young player, but I don't think people could pick him out of a lineup. Ronald Acuna Jr. is kind of the same thing. These are great talents, don't get me wrong, but when it's my job to know what these players can do, I see them. But it used to be that the players that I would have mentioned in a statement like that were literally household names. Jeter. It's not just Yankees. It's there's other star Ortiz. That's Manny Ramirez. There were just those players, and nowadays it just seems different. Major League Baseball is in a time where ultimately they say they're thrilled to be back. Don't forget, the league wanted to shorten the season and not start now. The players insisted on playing now. And again, that just shows the distrust. And the best example of the distrust, and you guys can tell me whether you like it or not, is the universal DH. Both the players and the league want it. And they can't agree on it. The players are for a universal DH. The league is for a universal DH, which means a DH in the National League, and they can't agree. But they are saying the same thing. That's the epitome of dysfunction. That's what this kind of dysfunction is. And it doesn't make sense. And I know Tony Clark, the head of the Players Union, and I know Rob Manfred, and I just don't have any faith that these two guys are going to do the right thing and begin labor talks during this season. And that's what they should do. Begin labor talks during this season. Do it from a standpoint of get this done now as opposed to anytime later on. It's just not worth it. So that's where I see it. I think ultimately when we talk about baseball and where it is today and what's happening today in baseball, I see where stars aren't household names, and I see too many strikeouts. And I think there's not enough emphasis on the things in baseball that I love about baseball, which are defense, stolen bases, situations, base hits, running, defense, the whole thing. And I know a couple of guys who run the MLB Twitter account, the @MLB Twitter account. And they literally put up home run after home run. Let's look right now. Let's look at the MLB Twitter account. How long has the season been going on? 2 hours? What's the most recent tweet from the MLB Twitter account? Well, they're promoting a Twitch thing. That's fun. You know what? 12 minutes ago, they had a defensive play. Marcus Semien made a great play for the Blue Jays at second base. There you go. But right before that, 25 minutes ago, Teoscar Hernandez, a home run against the Yankees for the Blue Jays. And all I'm saying is show more plays, show more excitement, show more of what makes baseball fun. Show personalities, show the people, get to know these people. Showcase that. Make that available. Let these guys say what they want on social media. You guys see how the NBA does it? Is there a player, is there a star in the NBA that you don't know what they're like? And make these players available to overkill, almost overkill. Just keep going and hope that that works. Because when we talk about sports and we talk about what we like in 2021 in sports, it turns out to be people. You like people and players, and that's always been a good thing. And, that's going to be, to see what we're going to do. And like I said, a lot of people are going to say that players are these anonymous cats. No one knows who they are. And all I'm saying is if you've got great people, then let's do it. Let's see it. That's what I hope. That's all I hope for this sport. And what I hope, I'm not overwhelmed with the COVID stuff. I don't think that's going to be the downfall this season. I thought it was the downfall last season. I thought it was a mess. But I think this year, with the vaccine rollout the way it is, and hopefully this can be safe, and hopefully fans can enjoy, and all of those things, that would all be wonderful. But if we're going to take baseball and just say, how does it get to the level that the other sports are at? Forget football. I'm not trying to compare it to football, but I'd love to see it compete for people's attention. And social media is a great way to expand on that. It's a great way to showcase that. It's a great way to look at that. So I hope people recognize that that's what we're looking for. And like I said, I think a big thing for that is going to be, how well this sport gets into a rhythm where people are talking about the teams, the games, the players, and not the issues, and not the strikeouts. And I hope that's where this goes. I hope that's where this can be. That would be fantastic. In looking at some of the stadiums in the early going, and I got a chance to see a little bit of Yankee Stadium, the fans spread out. It's okay. I haven't listened enough to get a good, proper gauge. Indians Tigers are 3-0. Tigers top 7. Blue Jays Yankees are 2-2 in the 7th. Twins lead the Brewers 2-0 in the 3rd. Pirates lead the Cubs 3-1. The Phillies lead the Braves 1-0 early on. Let's see how they scored the run. Oy. Oh, a sac fly in the bottom of the 1st by Alec Bohm. Scored McCutcheon. I'm gonna have to switch to like ESPN. I can't do it. I can't.
Cole leaving the game. Yankees Blue Jays into the 7th inning stretch. 2-2. Good one
the
going
pop-ups. I love the pop-ups. Pop-up ads and all this shenanigans. That's always good times. It's funny. When I worked at MLB.com, I just thought the website was better. It maybe sounds crazy, but I thought the MLB.com was better years ago. It just seems like it's all over the place now. And it just seems like it's a bit much. At least I think. Sorry, I'm just making sure that everything is coming through, and we're getting okay. We got Ray. Good. Yeah, I just want to make because I clicked on a pop-up, and I just want to make sure it didn't start to, do something ridiculous. All right, so we'll take your questions. Again, you can follow me on Twitter. You can. That's the best thing. Subscribe or follow this channel. That's the best way because we're going to do these shows whenever, especially during day games when we can watch games as well. Let's welcome in our first guest for the afternoon. This was a guy who worked with me at ESPN, and we tore some stuff up at ESPN when we were there. Now he designs video games. He has his own Twitch channel where he does play-by-play of games while he's playing them, which is so freaking confusing. It's so hard to do, but I don't know what's going on. He is, and I don't know the name of the company he works for now, but he's the man. He knows a lot about sports, but he also knows a lot about other stuff. Let's welcome in my buddy, Ray Carcillo. Ray, what's up, dude?
Not much, Seth. How's it going, buddy? How's it going?
How are you? Happy opening day.
Happy opening day. Yes, it's an exciting day. It's thank goodness there's something on my television I can watch now that 24/7 now. We're going to have baseball games all day long today. Super excited about it. It's watching the Yankees and Blue Jays right now. They're tied 2-2. Just had the 7th inning stretch. But my company name, by the way, is Boss Team Games. That's what's our company, by the way. But yeah, things are good, man. How are you?
Yeah, and you just did a Cobra Kai game, right?
That's correct. We are we specialize in licensed IP, so we just did a mobile Cobra Kai game called Cobra Kai Card Fighter. It's for iOS and Android phones. And then we got an Evil Dead game coming out later this fall for all consoles and PC. So exciting times all around.
And give people the Twitch channel before we forget.
Oh, it's real easy. It's twitch.tv/Ray Carcillo. It's just like yours. It's just my name. And yeah, we do it 5 nights a week, usually Monday through Friday. I give people a heads up if I can't, but usually 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. And it's a good time. We do mostly sports games, but then I do things like New Game Friday sometimes to try and, give people that range of the whole gamut of the games industry.
Well, I told you got me hooked on NHL 21. Holy moly! I'm a full-on addict. Reese,
well,
hello.
It's a solid game. It's only going to get better next year because they're going to have the power of next-gen consoles behind them. This was the last game for the Xbox One and the PS4, even though you could play them on your PS5 and Series X. But it's a lot of fun. I just won the Stanley Cup with the Rangers. Then I did a Stanley Cup with the Kraken. I made an expansion team, so that was a lot of fun. And we do. That's my gimmick is I do live play-by-play of the games as I play, and I interact with the audience like you do here, and we just talk. We talk sports, wrestling, video games, whatever the folks want to talk about, but it's usually more sports oriented.
Well, cool, and we'll put your Twitch stuff in the chat. Let me ask you this, just to start this conversation going. The league wanted to have a shorter season. The players didn't. The players wanted to play. Every ballpark has some semblance of fans, even the Blue Jays spring training facility, because they can't get into Canada. And if they go into Canada, they can't leave Canada. So
right.
that's kind of the issue. How much do you think that this season is just like, is all of that pushed on the back burner? Does Optimum spring eternal? Or does baseball really have this huge mountain that they're trying to overcome?
I think it's a bit of a mountain, right? Like, I think I watched a little bit of the beginning of your show, and it's, they're trying to get things back to normal as quickly as possible to try to get back in the good graces of the fans, right? The past couple of years have been real bad for baseball, not just COVID, but the whole Astros scandal and all of that. And I think that they've really been struggling. So they want to try and get back to normalcy as quickly as possible. And I think that, the smart thing to do would have been to delay the season a month, start in May, or maybe start Memorial Day, right? Like we have, again, not to get too focused on COVID, but the math is there. If everybody gets their vaccines now, we should be able to get in front of this thing by end of April. And I'm going for my first shot in a couple of weeks.
Nice.
I'm finally eligible here in California. And it's one of those things where if I understand they want to get back to normal, but I think it's one of those things where it's realism and it's being realistic with the world around us. I think the responsible thing would have been to delay the season by 6 weeks. But I also do understand that the optics of everything's hunky-dory, everything's fine. Look, baseball's back. Let's all be positive. We're getting out of this. And if baseball can be part of that push of us getting back to quote unquote normalcy, I think it could be a win for the sport that it desperately needs after really a couple of dark years, in my opinion.
Well, part of this is the issues that face baseball, and then there's part of it is baseball's just a sport dealing with COVID. Those are, to me, two separate dichotomies. The issue from my standpoint for baseball, I was against the 2020 season. I thought the 2020 season was hodgepodge. I thought it was a mishmash. And what I thought, my standard line that I said in all my reporting, and I said it on this channel, and I said it on podcasts, is get Rob Manfred and Tony Clark, the head of the Players Union, to lock themselves in a room, quarantine for 14 days, and then don't come out until you have a labor deal. Yeah. And that was accentuated when the NHL, which had their season cut short last year, and then they resurrected their season in their bubble, they extended their CBA by 4 years, and the head of the hockey union is Don Fehr, who used to run the baseball union. So it could have been done, and I'd feel a lot better. See, they talk about getting fans back 100%, right? Roger Goodell has said that for football. So let's target September and say that's the time to have full stadiums.
Right.
Baseball's over in October, and you're finally getting full stadiums back. Yeah. If you wanted to get everything back, and now you're going to have a labor problem? Like, we're finally back with sports. We have everything we wanted as sports fans. We got what we had lost. Right. And now you're going to have a labor problem? Why couldn't you have gassed the 2020 season, based it on COVID? Again, people would have been mad, but again, social media gets mad when football schedules something, not baseball.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things for sure where I think, no, you're right. They wasted their time. They were given a gift, right? Like, I think a lot of us, some of us had the blessing to be able to work on different things and take advantage of the time off, we'll say, at the beginning of COVID. And baseball, who is the privileged of the most privileged, they instead of taking that time and working on the things they needed to work on, like you said, Seth, like working on the universal DH rule and all this other stuff, they and especially, again, the labor union, they kicked the can. They were so focused on this one singular goal of just playing some games and salvaging some season that they lost the opportunity that was actually presented before them. They failed to capitalize, trying to turn a negative into a positive, right? Like, I mean, look, COVID was negative for everyone, no matter how you slice it. But some were able to turn it into a positive in certain ways, if they were lucky to. And again, baseball should have been able to capitalize on it, right? You look, like you said, hockey was able to, basketball was able to turn it into a good situation with their bubble. I mean, even the NFL, despite their issues and despite all the delays and the changing of games and all the craziness of their season, still probably got more done. I mean, they're at the point now where they worked on it, and now we're going to have a 17-game football season going forward. The season's been extended, right? This is football took their downtime. They worked on things. They worked with the union and stuff, and they at least got the gears in motion so that now they're like, yeah, next year, 17-game football season. They did things. Baseball, like, you did nothing. All they did was kick the can and panic, basically, and try to do this hodgepodge 60-game season, and then nothing came of it. People love the universal DH. People love the expanded playoffs. The fans, who again, this is what it's all about.
You like the expanded playoffs? They're not doing that this year, are they?
No, they're not. No, but they're not. But that's the point. But the thing is that the majority of the fan base liked a lot of the changes that they saw during this experimental period. And it's, again, instead of listening to their fans, baseball was just like, well, now we're going to go back to the way things were. When you can't go back to the way things were. We know how things are now. Like, things are always going to be normal plus, normal and something else, right? There's going to be it's going to be a variety. It's not the new norm. There's going to be a new normal, right? We're never going to get back to the way things were. And now you're trying to put things back in the can and you can't. And again, one of the biggest things is that, after trying to win your fans back this year, which is their huge focus, if there's any kind of a strike or labor dispute, we're all gone. We're mass exodus by the fans. Like, I already know fans who are done with baseball just because of the Astro scandal and Manfred not handing out strong enough discipline on the players. I have friends who are like, as long as Jose Altuve and Alec Bregman and all those guys play baseball, I will never watch another game. Like, I mean, and that's a whole nother scenario, but like, no, it's true. It's true. That's a whole nother scenario. And they're not Yankee fans either. They're fans from all over. They're Reds fans and Phillies fans.
I hate that the Astros cheated too, but you're not going to watch another game because some jackasses cheated?
I mean, look.
Can you call them up? Can we get them on this show? I'd love to talk to these idiots.
Yeah. But I mean, I get it though, because they're just frustrated. I think it's a culmination of frustration from baseball over the course of our entire lives, I think, as younger fans, quote unquote, right? Like it's baseball's really stepped in it, in particular the last few years, but really for the steroid era, the strike in '94, baseball has done some good in the past 30 years, but they've done a lot of wrong too, made a lot of missteps. And I think some people are just sick of it. And this is just another example of them just not getting it.
Well, I think the bigger thing, and Archangel, I wanted the world to hide in a hole last year. You're going to have to elaborate a little bit on that. The thing that what I look at more than anything is just the less balls hit in play. And I'll give you one stat. I can't talk. One statistic. And this was a couple of years ago on my Sports with Friends podcast. And if you look in the top right hand of the screen, you see the logo. You can get the Sports with Friends podcast, including we had a porn star on this week. But anyway, Jason Stark, who's a mutual friend of ours, he said in 2018, Major League Baseball had 11,000 less balls hit in play than 2008. That's 2008. Now, that's not the old man on the lawn going, baseball was better when Mickey Mantle played. Like, that's not what we're saying. 2008 wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
And this idea that if you want to at least play this argument out, my whole point is I can't allow there to be that many swings and misses, that many strikeouts, that many. I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. Billy Sample, who played in the late 70s and early 80s.
Yep, for the Yankees, yep.
He played for the Texas Rangers, he played for the Atlanta Braves and the Yankees, and he was cut in 1987 with collusion, and he missed out on that 1987. He could have been a fourth outfielder on that 1987 Minnesota Twins World Series team.
Oh wow,
that's a better. But then Billy told us that with the Rangers in the late 70s, if you struck out, you were not allowed to utilize the services of the bat boy. That you had to carry your own bat back to the dugout in shame because you struck out.
Wow.
And what he learned is what you and I learned because we played Little League baseball, and that is if you have two strikes on you, choke up and protect the plate.
Yeah, make contact.
And now we live in a world, and I pick on Chris Bryant for this example, but it's anybody. Now, in this day and age where you know the opponent's pitch count, if you can get an 8 or 9 pitch at bat, even if the 9th pitch is a swinging strike 3, in the sabermetric mentality, that is considered a productive strikeout.
Right.
And if you see that and the guy swings and misses on the 9th pitch at strike 3, but he got 9 pitches out,
right,
They come back to the dugout and they're all high-fiving him. And to me, that's the fundamental difference in baseball. It's not the marketing. It's not the commercial. Like, people are like, oh, there's too many commercials. I don't mind the commercials. They're commercials.
It's a minute and a half every half inning. It's not that.
Get over it. That's that's not what it means.
Yeah.
And the idea that when you're playing in a game that you are so concerned with this cockamamie launch angle that it supersedes your idea of just getting on base or making contact. So that's why I said at the top of the show, what I'm hoping for is these new baseballs lower home run totals so that hitters start to say, I can't get on base.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's true. I mean, yeah, supposedly the ball travels like 3 less feet now over so many 100 feet or whatever. I forget what the exact math is. But no, I mean, I think this is something that baseball has needed for a long time. It's why DJ LeMahieu's one of my favorite players now, is because he seems to be the only guy on the field most games who's okay with a single or a double.
When he was on the Rockies.
Well, I mean, he was great on the Rockies too. But I mean, especially now as a Yankee. But I mean, yeah, it's so true. I can look at up and down the Yankee lineup, and the only 2 guys I think who choke up with 2 strikes is Aaron Hicks and DJ LeMahieu, maybe Urshela. But I mean, it's everybody else is swinging and miss. It's strike 1, strike 2, strike 3. It's like that Bugs Bunny cartoon where he just throws the pitch real slow, and all these guys just keep swinging and missing, and they all go back to the dugout, and it's a perfect inning. Like, you're helping the other side out when you have a 10-pitch inning for them, and these guys will just swing and chase at everything instead of trying to make contact. I mean, I think it's been prevalent in the game really for 20 years. I think especially since. First off, obviously the home run race of 98, Sosa and McGuire. That's when people really started to get really obsessed with the home run and how much it did for ratings and how much it did for stats and stuff like that. But you also started to see other things like the shift come in a few years later. I remember Jason Giambi said one story. He was interviewed one time about how much he hated the shift because he's like, I was robbed of 40 base hits last year. And it's like, no, it's like people went back, they did the stats, they looked at it, they said he would have had 7 more hits. The shift robbed him of 7 more hits, or maybe 8 hits, something like that, single digits. But the perception by the players is that things like the shift are taking away their opportunities. So instead of adjusting their swing and doing something like a bunt down the third baseline, or God forbid, go the other way, they're like, well, I'm just going to hit it over your head. And it's become so ingrained now in the culture that that's basically all it is now. Like you said, I completely agree. I think one of the worst things that happened to game is that it's everything or nothing. It's home run or strikeout. That's it. That's all the game is anymore. The stolen base, the hit and run, the drag bunt, the suicide squeeze. These are things you tell this to a modern fan, a 15, 16-year-old kid who watches the game. A lot of these kids who actually come to my Twitch channels, and they're like, what's a suicide squeeze? They don't even know. They don't even know what this stuff is because it's so rarely implemented. And especially if you're not a National League fan in particular, if you follow primarily the American League, you're definitely never going to see something like that. So it's definitely, the game has changed, and it's probably changed for the worse. And I think that, yeah, hopefully these guys start to wisen up that if you can hit it's probably more valuable to your team if you can hit 350 than it is if you can hit 45 home runs.
They don't agree with that. The sabermetric mentality. And by the way, is Lee? That's your co-host, right?
Yes.
What's up, man? I wait a second. I've been on this show.
You
guys do a podcast.
We do. Geeks Who Like Sports. That's right.
I remember. He says Gabe Kapler got in trouble his first year with the Phillies for overthinking sabermetrics. Gabe Kapler is high as a kite. Gabe Kapler used to do a weekly when I was at MLB, and when he got the Phillies job, all I said was, holy crap, you have to watch his post-game press conferences because God knows what the hell comes out of his mouth. He's one of the wackiest. Now, here's where the chat has gone, and that is, do we legislate the end of the shift? My argument has been, as long as coaches have told me that that's how they're teaching it, that this is not rebel players just deciding this is what I want to do because this is how I think I'm going to be productive. This is literally... This is going to become a scenario for like there's no. This is what they're teaching. So I can't say that you can. I'm looking for the right phrase. Like, you can't trust that the players are going to autocorrect this. I don't trust that the coaches are going to say, you know what, let's change the way we all think. So what I would then say is you have to outlaw the shift because you can't trust players to do it on your own. And I understand people who are against the legislation for the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that thing.
No, for sure. But I completely agree, though, that I think that, look, the game for years was fine with you had two guys on the right of second, two guys on the left of second, right? Adjust them a couple steps one way, shade them up the middle.
Right, I would do an imaginary line from the point of home plate. I wouldn't draw it, so it doesn't make the field look different, but an imaginary line, and the only people that can go on both sides of the line are the pitcher, the catcher, and the center fielder.
Yeah. I completely agree. I mean, I think that's how you have to do it. I think
batting averages would increase by 25 points.
Oh, well, I mean, definitely amongst the sluggers, for sure.
No, I think everybody.
Pull hitters,
but I think everybody. Because I would say 85% of hitters are pull hitters.
Yeah, at this point in particular, yes. Very few. You don't have the Tony Gwynns of the world.
They don't
unfortunately,
exist anymore. The Edgar Martinez's they don't exist anymore.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, no, I think that you would probably see a huge increase for sure. You'd also have a lot more better plays. Marcus Semien made a terrific play. Robbed DJ LeMahieu of an RBI single. Jay Bruce would have scored.
The MLB Twitter account tweeted it, that play out, and I said, wow, they're showing defense. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is that it makes you have more opportunities for great defense and for great plays and for guys to really show off their skill set and also increase their own value. You know, I said this on my TikTok earlier today, and people gave me a lot of guff, but I talked about how much I hate Gleyber Torres as a fielder. And Gleyber Torres in the field for me.
That's what you're doing on TikTok? I do this on TikTok.
You do all the dances? Well, I do a lot of my sports highlights from my streams, and then a lot of folks ask me direct questions. And so one of the questions was how I thought the Yankees were going to do, and I talked about how they're off season, and I said, supposedly there was a rumor that the Reds offered up Luis Castillo for Gleyber Torres and some prospects. And I said I would have taken that in a heartbeat. I would have made that trade, and I would have resigned. I would have either re-signed Didi, who's still a free agent, or Jose Iglesias, who of course is a superstar defender, and put him at the top of the lineup. Because to me, Iglesias, LeMahieu, Judge, that sounds like a terrific top of your lineup.
Right.
And people are like, "You hate Torres? How can you hate Torres?" I'm like, "Did you see the ground ball that went right under his glove today that ended up leading to the first Blue Jays run? That's why I hate Gleyber Torres. Because defense is not celebrated as much. It just should be anymore in the game. It should be in the game more."
By the way, just so we know, Ray wanted to wear a jersey. This is what he wanted to do. He wanted to wear a goddamn jersey. That's what he was doing. Okay, I want to catch up.
I still have stripes on, but not the
First
not
of
the
all,
same.
DJ Cognac, is that your name? That's a great name. Thanks for hosting the show. And he says, I'm a Phillies fan, and my TikToks are of my dogs.
Those are great TikToks too, man. Those are great TikToks.
My daughters would love if I started a TikTok channel. They would love it. But I've been on TikToks just under their accounts, and all I'll do is they'll be doing these dances, and I'll poke my head in, and I'll just go.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Ethan. Okay, and then now this is the other one. Andrew, who's Jim writes, who's an obnoxious little punk. He says, after outlawing the shifts, the next step can be reduce the number of fielders. Batting averages would go up there too. Yes.
Yes, technically you are correct, but I mean, look, we're just saying that it'd be better for the game. It'd be better for the competitive balance of the game in a lot of ways. And in terms of a game that for a lot of folks drag, even the 2.5 hour games, the pitcher's duel, the quick games, you'd have more action. You'd have more exciting plays. Again, the Marcus Semien play doesn't happen if they're shifting DJ LeMahieu. Obviously, that's one guy who you would never shift because, again, he's one of the few guys who does use the whole field. But it's one of those things where allow these guys to show off their talents, allow them to show off their abilities. And if the guy is able to hit it 110 miles an hour between the first baseman and the second baseman, you know what? He probably deserves the single. Just saying.
Archangel says it will take 2 organizations to start teaching old school and coaching old school to change the league. I disagree, because the Kansas City Royals won in 2015, and that was the best example of what Ray's saying, and nobody followed it. Like, literally nobody followed it. They just were like, nah, we're over it. Let's just take care of it.
They pitched well. They stole bases. They played great defense. That Royals team, again, as a Yankee fan, that Royals team was terrific fun to watch. That was a lot of fun. That was the most fun to watch, probably. I'll even admit it. The Rays last year were fun to watch, but for a lot of different reasons. They had a lot of personality. Of course, they weren't fun to watch in the first round against the Yankees in the ALDS. But, you have these stories, these regular teams that you used to watch and cheer for even when your team was knocked out. They're not regular anymore. You get them once every few years, right? The scrappy upstarts who are hustling down the line and beating out infield singles, right? Like, or you get that crazy play again. I always think of the Game 4 of the World Series last year with a Rosarena rounding third, stumbling down. Because guys were on base, because guys were hustling hard, that's why you had an error in the field, and that's why you had this amazing finish to a World Series game that we had never seen before. Right? You used to say that every time you watch the baseball game, you'll see something you never saw before. That's not true anymore. I can watch, I'll watch 162 games a year. 160 of them play out the same way most of the time, because unfortunately now the game has become so regimented and so by the book. And again, I go talk about my Yankees and Aaron Boone. So I'm just going to look at the numbers here in this book that I miss what's happening on the field so much. And even again, Tampa Bay, Kevin Cash pulling out Blake Snell last year in Game 6, to try and force a Game 7. Like, pay attention to what's happening on the field. Numbers have a place in the game. Stats are important. I'm not saying they're not. But there's a point where you have to close the binder and pay attention to what's happening in front of your face. And sometimes, I know it sounds like that old school plucky guy, well, I just went with my gut. Well, sometimes you got to go with your dang gut, because it's what's the right thing to do. And you outthink yourself.
Are you just mad that you're not wearing a jersey?
I had a hat ready to go. I had face paint. I had my jersey. I was so set, Seth. No, I'm all right.
Could you imagine? And Jim writes, Mets used to be fun to watch when they were a dumpster fire owned by the Wilpons. Well, and
the Mets will be very competitive.
I got issues with the Wilpons.
Who doesn't?
But no, now they're owned by the guy from Billions, which I like.
Yeah, and he wants to win. Speaking of Billions, he spent a lot of money. Obviously, the Lindor contract got announced yesterday, 10 years, $341 million, $1 million more than Tatis. That was on purpose.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, look, if the Mets are healthy, you look at that rotation, you look at that lineup.
I'd still take the Braves. I'd still take the Braves.
I was just about to say, I also agree. To me, it's Braves, Mets. I think the Nats will start off slow like they always do, and then probably get hot towards the end of the year and probably finish third. And I'm not gonna lie, I think the Marlins fourth, and then the Phillies in the basement.
Yeah.
Because especially led by Sixto Sanchez and Don Mattingly, obviously manager of the year last year. I think the Marlins they're not fading away. I don't think obviously they won't make the playoffs this year, but they'll probably hover around 500 for most of the year. But yeah, I still think that with Fried and Soroka coming back and Ian Anderson, rotation in Atlanta is absolutely unbelievable. Freeman at first, Acuna, you mentioned it in the beginning of your show. Them too. Pache in center. Azuna again. Their lineup is just as stacked, and they match up just as well as the Mets, if not better.
So I have 2 stories. As far as the Mets are concerned, there are literally very few people on that team that are from my days. And my days were not that long ago. It was 2014. It was my last year with the Mets. And so I have a good Jacob deGrom story or a bad Noah Syndergaard story. Noah Syndergaard blocks me on Twitter.
Ooh,
he's a dick.
Oh,
he's such
we got to
a
hear the
dick.
Noah Syndergaard story. Come on, we need the gossip, Seth.
So
let's go.
Jim writes and says, with analytics, sadly, Seth and I could be baseball managers and do it for far less than Boone is getting paid. It's funny.
Yeah.
The trend in baseball with managers is you hire these young guys who can relate to the players, whether it's they're very good with millennials or they're very good with foreigners. Like Luis Rojas is a good fit for a lot of the Latin guys on the Mets team, just as an example. And there have been times when people have asked me, well, why don't they fire a manager? And my response has always been, why would they fire him? He's doing everything they're asking him.
Right.
Because the front offices are dictating what the lineups are going to be like and what the strategies are going to be like. What's the difference? And that's kind of the point. I'll tell the Syndergaard story in a second. Your buddy Lee writes, as a coach, numbers and analytics are super important to me, but I also believe that where are you a coach?
No, that's true. Lee is actually a championship-winning hockey coach. He won the European championship yeah. So Lee is a very good hockey coach. So yeah, no.
Some other guys in the chat room gonna go like, "Hey, I'm a coach too." But I
can vouch for Lee. I can't vouch for anyone else in the chat.
But I also believe there are major aspects that cannot be recorded or seen in stats. The human element that can make an average player great or a great player immortal for a game. Great Herb Brooks quote, risk something or live forever with your dreams. Did you know that Herb Brooks was played by Kurt Russell in the movie Miracle, and Kurt Russell's son is the new Captain America?
Yeah, it's John. Wyatt Russell is Kurt's son, and he's well. We think he's going to become U.S. agent.
He's a dick. So far.
Well, that's the point, right? They're making him that way because I think at the end of the show they're going to give Sam the shield. And then also in the Marvel universe, that means his biological dad is also Ego the Living Planet. So
Jim writes, more important question: baseball and the Devils play at the same time. Seth watches which. That's not even an easy debate. That's Devils. Are you joking? And when I watch baseball, it is literally like, what do I need to know for my what appearance do I need to know it for? What radio show do I have to go on? What market am I going on? It's so funny. Like I'll go on in Milwaukee, and that night I'll check out Brewers highlights. And baseball is so slow, you can pick up so fast.
Yeah.
That it would be easily the hockey game. Yeah. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is great so far, right?
Oh, it's terrific. Absolutely thrilled. Can't wait. New episode.
Isaiah Bradley.
Oh, I know. The fact that they did Isaiah Bradley and obviously Eli, obviously they're setting up Patriot for Young Avengers. At this point, we have the Young Avenger roster pretty much established now in the Marvel Universe, which is terrific. But, also played by Carl Lumbly, voice of Martian Manhunter in the Justice League cartoons. Amazing job. Such a powerful scene there when they reveal that there's more super soldiers out there. And there it is, red, white, and black.
The greatest books I've ever read in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, from 2003, I think, if I remember correctly, that book was released. But it's very underrated. That book's getting a lot more circulation now, but at the time it was very underrated. Isaiah Bradley, the whole idea of Black Captain America was a huge thing for Marvel, and the fact that they did that storyline in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the stuff that they fit already into the first 2 episodes from what's going to probably be.
It's packed.
It is jam-packed with deep cuts. Battlestar. Thankfully, they did not do the left winger and the right winger, at least not yet.
Not yet.
For those of you real old Marvel fans from the 80s, you'll know who those guys are. But
it's really funny though. Like you anytime, Lee, the argument for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like the way they're writing it, is so the opposite from how they write The Flash. Like The Flash is 18 episodes, and I think they're trying to stretch the storyline out, whereas it's literally the opposite. It's literally the opposite. It's like, how much can you cram into this thing, and it's just getting better and better and better and better and better, and they're like mini movies. It's fantastic.
Well, that's exactly what it is. I think that they're definitely trying to go for that cinematic feel, and I think it's the old television model versus the new television model, right? It's Flash, CW, DC Comics. They're the old way of doing things, and I think that if they decided to move a lot of those CW shows to HBO Max, I think you would start to see a lot more condensed stuff, like you saw with Doom Patrol and Titans, and having more condensed, compact. Yep. Storylines like you're seeing here with WandaVision and with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and you're going to see with Loki. And Marvel's doing it right too, where basically now they've got at least an episode of something dropping until it's not a movie. They got an episode of something dropping till the end of the year, and I think that's the way to do it. So, personally,
I totally understand. I mean, totally. I'm just checking the quick scores real fast. I had deleted them because they had 7,000 pop-ups. But
Yankees are still 2-2 going top 9. Yankees had the bases loaded in the 7th with 1 out and Judge hit into a double play, so Toronto got out of that jam. But
all right, do the same thing for Tigers Indians then. Show off.
Tigers Indians is 3-0 going top 9. I'm very happy. The 2-run home run by Miguel Cabrera, which I'm very happy because I'm watching Cabrera. I feel Cabrera got robbed last year of the shortened season because he's so close to both 3,000 hits and 500 home runs. Yep. So for his first hit of the campaign to be a home run, he's now 12 away from 500 and 133 hits away from 3,000. I really hope he hits both milestones this year, and I think that he will. In the
Jim
snow,
says,
by the
Judge
way.
should have bunted in the 7th. Use the squeeze play. Yeah.
That would have been something.
That would have been awesome. That would have been awesome.
Nobody would have seen it
Twitter
coming.
would have gone bananas.
Yes. And that's the kind of stuff that baseball needs right now. But yeah, Tigers and Indians playing in a snowstorm there for a while. You had the rain out between, Red Sox and Orioles, but Cleveland's like, it's snowing. We'll keep going. We'll play.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely something. He also says he's not going to watch Seth play MLB 2020 like he does NHL 2020. No, I wouldn't play MLB. I literally only play the hockey game.
Yeah.
You're a gamer. I'm not a gamer.
Yeah.
I'm a one-game player. That's my one game. And now I learned how to do it.
I play a lot of different things. Yeah, we're doing NHL tonight just because MLB The Show 21 doesn't come out till April 20th because of COVID. It got delayed a month. But as soon as that drops, we'll shift from hockey.
Hold on. A video game got delayed because of COVID? You know, can the players catch it? Or can the fake players catch it?
Well, no. They basically lost like a couple months of development because they were all kept out of the office. Until they were a lot of studios. So, and this happened with our game too. And this is just a little inside baseball for the video game industry. Obviously, a lot of these companies all have office buildings and whatnot. And although you can obviously create a video game and do a work from home scenario, it was a lot of companies had to transition, right? They had to move files, hard drives, computers. It was a process that took a lot of companies somewhere between 4 to 8 weeks, including Sony San Diego, who of course makes MLB The Show. And yeah, they lost about a month of development last year. So instead of it coming out around St. Patrick's Day, which is the annual tradition, it got moved to April 20th this year. So that's why even on my stream, we're still playing hockey and haven't transitioned to baseball yet. So.
But don't you hate when the new game comes out that you can't just pick up where you left off on your other seasons?
That's why MLB The Show is the best sports game on the market, and that's no cap, and that's not me.
You incorporate your old records?
If you want, you can upload your save data and then pull it down into the new game and keep on playing for as long as you want. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, MLB The Show started that about 7 or 8 years ago. I might be overshooting it, but there are people who have been carrying on a franchise who are 30 years into a franchise. They started 7 years ago, but update the new game with new graphics and new mechanics every year because they can keep moving the save data along. Yeah, no, Sony San Diego was super smart with how they did that, and it's one of the best. It's why it's one of the best games out there in the market. And now this year, finally coming to Xbox. So if you're an Xbox fan, you can also play on your Xbox, and that's not just PlayStation.
And he's not just plugging it. I do have more video game questions, but what would happen if you had bases loaded with 1 out in the 7th inning in MLB The Show, and you had Aaron Judge at the plate and you bunted?
You know what?
Would the game say no?
You know, the game wouldn't say no. The game wouldn't say no, but I would say I do think that because it's such a rare scenario, it would probably make the wrong decision. The pitcher would probably just pick it up and throw Judge out at first, and the run would score. And so in video games, that's a great move because you push the go-ahead run across. But yeah, I think the game that's the beauty of video games is you have that semblance of control that you don't get in a lot of other aspects of your life.
Oh, that's really funny. Yeah. PlayStation versus Xbox. While I have you here, PlayStation versus Xbox. I looked at both, and I had access to both, but I thought Xbox made more sense because of its synchronicity with Windows.
Yeah, no, that's one of the big things for Xbox. I will say that Microsoft has really done a great job of how they connect all their systems now. If you have a Windows-based phone, if you have a PC, Windows with PC with Windows, and now an Xbox, you can move things and files and save data between games, between all this other stuff, pictures, all this other stuff. You know, if you take a screenshot in your Xbox, you can send it right to your computer, no problem. You can do that with Sony too, but there's a bit more of a guys to go to a website and you have to go here. With Microsoft, it is super simple. I'll also say the Xbox Series X, which is the more high-end version of the system, is more powerful than the PS5. You have better graphics. It's a faster processor. There's less bugs this go around. It's also a nicer looking system, in my opinion. It's sleek. It looks like a computer tower, whereas the Sony looks like something from Eon Flux or whatever that they pulled out of this super sci-fi thing with wings on it and all this other stuff. And all it does is take up a lot of space and give off a lot of heat. I really believe that, especially this generation, last generation, kind of neck and neck. It's which franchises do you prefer? Are you a Halo guy or are you a God of War guy? Right? With this, hands down, again, talking about statistics, Xbox is a more powerful system. It's better integrated with all the apps and your Windows PC. It does a better job with save data. There was a huge issue recently with PS5. The difficulty of getting, if you played the Marvel Avengers game on PS4, of getting your save data from that game to continue it on the PS5. There was a huge issue with that. And now PS4s are dying left and right too. So there's also a longevity issue with a lot of Sony systems. So for me, completely unbiased, I feel that the Xbox Series X is the better system than the PS5.
Putting you over, by the way. Thank you very much for hosting this show and rating this channel. He says, I'm here hoping to be watching the Red Sox, but postponed, so now I got to be a parent. But I am lurking for sure. Yeah, but at least the Red Sox got canceled because of a normal reason.
Yeah.
Not like the Nationals.
Yeah.
And I remember last year, you remember last year when Juan Soto tested positive on opening day, and
missed the Yankee series,
and they all played. You remember that? But they all played.
Yeah.
They were like, no problem. They didn't know what contact tracing was. They just said, go for it. Just do it. And I mean, but at least this time, the one question that I don't get, going back to that Nationals thing, is they supposedly have these taxi squads.
Right, they're supposed to, yeah.
You're supposed to have a taxi squad, and it's supposed to be geographically near your team.
Right, so they can get there in like a
couple
hours. Why
couldn't they replace the 5 players with the taxi squad and play the game?
No idea. That is, I completely agree, Seth. I have no idea why that didn't happen.
Maybe there's a reason. What I'm saying is there might be a real reason why that is, but to me that deserves being answered.
Oh, for sure. That definitely it deserves exploration because, like, I don't know either. All I know I don't know if they weren't ready. I don't know if the taxi squad wasn't available. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't be available on opening day. Like, I don't know that answer either. I haven't heard anything, but it's definitely something that baseball needs to probably get out in front of before, you know, at least soon. Before, I mean, they're going to probably just try and hope it gets swept under the rug in the next couple of weeks. But I would rather them get in front of it and be like, yeah, this is why. Come up with something. Come up with some lame excuse or whatever. Because, like, honestly, there's just no reason why the taxi squad wasn't ready and that the Mets aren't playing opening day baseball. Especially if you're a Mets fan. If you're a Mets fan, I'd be furious right now that the Mets aren't playing. Like you spend all this money in the offseason. You have this amazing lineup. Supposedly, you got DeGrom ready to go. Like, this is a chance for you to really start to show off and celebrate. And well, there's only gonna be one team playing in New York today, and that's the Yankees. And so no matter what, the Mets are an afterthought again.
Who's Mita Babbitt to do? I can't say your name. He says hi, Ray and Seth. Who is that?
Hello. I don't know.
Mike Dabbitt. Welcome. I don't know how to say your name. DJ Cognac says, what do you feel about replay in the game? Replay doesn't bother me. There's one thing I would tweak with replay. I would take the challenges out because I think the challenges are a big waste of time. I think that what you could do, and the challenges is what led to the Astros cheating scandal, because what they did was they hired replay coordinators. And there's this guy, Jim, he's the replay coordinator for the Mets, and he always yells at me because he thinks he would get fired if I had my way with this plan. But my plan is, what I would do is, if a play is close and anyone in the building thinks, yeah, let's challenge that, go to the replay. The time that you wait to decide whether or not you utilize your challenge slows the game down.
Right.
That's not what replays does. I don't mind replay. What I want is, if there's a play at second base, right? Safer out, right? Now, you see it, I see it. We're like, it's close. I'm not asking you, is he safer out? I'm saying it's close. Replay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I agree.
And in the time that they're checking to see if maybe they have an argument, then you're stalling. And these managers go out. Terry Collins used to tell me he'd stall. He would ask them about their families and how things are going and all this stuff. He said, this is stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just like you said, it slows the game down. There should be somebody in another umpire in the stadium watching every single close play. And if it's overturnable, he should buzz down to the home plate umpire or the crew chief or whatever and be like, hey, listen, that one needs another look. I got some footage here you guys need to see. It's that simple. Don't leave it up to the teams. Let's just have somebody another umpire, because also when the umpires are replaced by the electronic strike zone in the next few years, this way you don't cost people jobs. That umpire can become the instant replay guy. That's a whole other thing.
The instant replay, the first instant replay office was right next to my desk at MLB Advanced Media, and all I wanted them to do, and I always suggested Ethan is DJ Cognac is Ethan. If I don't remember that, don't hold it against me. And he, our guy with the unpronounceable name, says you can say "might de bite." Then
it's Might the Bite. Yeah, no, he's one of my followers. Hey, what's up, buddy? How's it going?
Oh, good. Wow, you.
So yeah, I didn't. I can't see. You guys remember? I can't see the chat.
See the chat, right? He can't see the chat. I don't know how to fix that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I don't want to pull Twitch up on this computer because then I'm afraid there's gonna be an echo or it might slow it down. Right. So yeah,
if I don't know how else to, because we use Zoom, and that's the only way I know how to do it. So
yeah, we'll figure it out. I'll help you out, Seth. We'll come up with a solution.
You'll teach me, please.
Yeah.
Teach me, please. All right, let me tell. So I'm going to tell the DeGrom story and the Syndergaard story.
Yes,
Jacob DeGrom, salt of the earth. Noah Syndergaard, he's an asshole. So
you heard it here first, folks.
So DeGrom, this was August 2014. DeGrom is a rookie, and people knew he was good, right? He was already good. He won the Cy Young in 15, but he was good in 14. Right. And he was so nice, and he had the long hair. Remember, he had the long hair. My daughter, so 2014 is 7 years ago, so she's 12 now. 12 minus 7, she was 5 or 6. I think she had just turned 6, and she wanted that year that I worked for the Mets was a brutal year. Yes, hanging out in Los Angeles with you was fun, but not but not. It was a brutal year because the homestands were torture. Because I was driving I live in New Jersey, and I was driving a goddamn City Field all the goddamn time.
Oh yeah,
the
that's
road
a
trips were a blast, but the whole season sucked. So my daughter, for her birthday, wanted to go to work with me. So I bring now 6-year-old little Sophie to the ballpark. And we arranged it so that she could be with me for every minute that she was there, except when I had to go into the manager's office to interview Terry Collins. So that's the arrangement. Now, I worked on this days ahead of time. Like, I planned this out totally. And he said, so we made this arrangement. I know this lady who is a security guard for the Mets clubhouse area.
Okay.
And I said, would you watch my daughter for 5 minutes? The Terry Collins report is 4 of them. Like, it's hi, Terry, coming down, 3, 2, 1, go. 4 minutes. Now back to you guys in the studio. Bam. That's it. That's the whole task.
Right.
And about 7 minutes before this is going to happen, this is going to take place, some jackass tries to break into Citi Field.
Oh, jeez.
And the announcement comes on, can all local personnel, security personnel, please come to gate 5 or whatever it was.
Right.
And the woman looks at me and goes, I'm sorry, I got to go.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, no. I'm like, what am I going to do? So Jacob deGrom sees this whole thing transpire. And he sees I am panicking at this point because I don't want to ask Terry Collins if I have to, can I bring my daughter in? Because if her voice gets on that tape, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, you're done. Yeah.
So, and the Wilpons hated me anyway. So deGrom sees my stress and he just comes over to me and he just says, I'll watch her. And I was like, awesome. Oh, for real? And he's like, yeah, I'll totally do it. So he goes out and I think they played like with dolls or something. I don't know what they did. I left her with Jacob deGrom because in my mind, I'm thinking like, what could happen? Kid abducted by, Mets star? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like,
Mets star rookie. Yeah.
Like, how safe am I right here?
Right. Yeah.
And anyway, so we did the interview. We come out. She was great. He was great. And later on, and then the next year, I'm on the radio, and he wins the Cy Young Award. And people are like, "What do you make of Jacob deGrom?" And I said, "Great. He babysat my kid."
Yeah. That's a great story.
Isn't that great?
It's a great story. Awesome. That's really fantastic.
I love Jacob deGrom.
Yeah, no, see, and that's a cool story, and that's something that's something that baseball needs too. Baseball needs more stories like that, more stories showing guys' personalities, guys being just decent dudes.
Loved it. He's a great dude. Now in 2014, my last year with the Mets, Noah Syndergaard was in the minors, so he was the highly touted prospect, but he was not on the team. So I don't know him personally like I know deGrom. And really, there's nobody left on that team that I know anymore. Jacob deGrom is really it. But anyway, Noah Syndergaard, the next year, 2015, he was the guy that was chumming it up with Mr. Met and doing videos on social media. And, like, he would walk in on post-game interviews, and he would just be a clown.
Right.
And I don't mind that. I don't mind that. That I'm not like the fun police. Like, I don't care about that. What happens is he gets hurt. And the first thing out of his mouth was to the PR guy, not Jay Horowitz, not the legend Jay Horowitz, but this other PR guy, Ethan, and he says, "Get your minions out of my face." And I saw this from a distance and heard that story because I got a text message about it. And I said, isn't it funny how ball players can be super chummy when things are nice, but the minute there's one little bit of adversity, they become total assholes. Yeah. I said, he likes to call himself Thor. Well, I know a little bit about the Marvel Universe. I think he resembles Squirrel Girl. And that did not get me blocked. That didn't get me blocked. What got me blocked was, do you remember the Mets wanted him to take an MRI and he refused because he's dumb as a box of fucking rocks?
Yeah.
And he came out and he demanded that he pitch that Sunday. And that Sunday was it was on the road. It was in St. Louis. And he comes out in the first inning. He's pitching, with a sore elbow. And all of a sudden, he's throwing like 120 miles an hour. Like he was on fire. And in the second inning, leaves and then has elbow surgery. And the next thing you know, he's out for the year. And then all I tweeted was, ain't karma a bitch?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
and just to put some context on that day, the day that he called the media his minions was the day that ESPN laid off like 300 people.
Oh,
and
yeah,
the media was getting crushed. And I wanted was could we treat the media and let them do their jobs? Like, they're having trouble keeping their jobs. Let's not crush the media.
Yeah.
And that was where my brain was at when he made the initial comment. I took offense to the initial comment. And that's when I started looking at him. And then when he did that on top of it, I was like, you're a jerk.
Yeah.
So then he Paul or Seth's followers minions. No, there are a couple of minions, and there's also Gru.
Yeah. Despicable Me.
But then Marcus Stroman comes over to the Mets, and when he was with the Blue Jays, he was on 2 radio shows that I hosted. And I liked him. And I even said Marcus Stroman's a guy that like I could totally see rooting for. And when he got to New York, I think he looked for Syndergaard's block list and just started blocking people. And it wasn't just me, but Stroman blocks me too. And I don't know why, because I've never had a crossword with him. He would not be able to pick me out of a lineup. Syndergaard is like a badge of honor. Like I screen grab.
Yeah, you earned. Yeah, right. You earned that. You guys had some interactions. The Stroman one, that is weird. Yeah, or maybe a Mets PR guy, or maybe his agent did it or something.
All
like
the Mets
whoever.
PR guys are buddies of mine. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't cared. The only time I had a fight with a Mets personnel, and this is a pretty decent story, was when I was working with you at ESPN. And Jeff Francoeur.
Right. Yep.
Remember Jeff Francoeur?
Yeah, the outfield, right fielder. Yeah, I remember.
Okay. So Jeff Francoeur, there was a story that week that the Mets had become disinterested and Jerry Manuel, their manager, lost the locker room, lost the clubhouse.
I remember that, yeah.
Okay. I was asked to go up to Bristol to be on Baseball Tonight. And I go on Baseball Tonight, and they knew I was in New York.
Right.
And so my job wasn't to answer just Mets and Yankee questions, but if there was a Mets or Yankee question, they would go to me.
Right, because you were the New York guy. You're supposed to have your hand on the pulse of everything,
and
right?
we were on late Friday, and the Mets were in St. Louis.
Right.
And the story, you remember, Baseball Tonight doesn't even exist, and I don't really watch ESPN now anyway. But do you know when they put on the lower third the topic of what you're talking about?
Right, yeah.
On the lower third, it had my Twitter handle, and it had Mets disenchanted or Manuel loses Mets clubhouse or something like that. And the research that I had done, because David Wright was my source,
right?
was
pretty good
that
source.
The Mets didn't lose faith in Jerry Manuel. So when they go to me, I'm on screen and I'm staring at the camera and I'm talking about this on Baseball Tonight. And the headline is Mets disenchanted with Manuel, and there may have been a question mark. Francoeur, this clown, is at a bar. He's, at a sports bar, there's always ESPN Sports Center on the TV.
Right, exactly. Especially late at night, there's no more games on or anything.
There's music playing. He doesn't hear what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The next day, they're in St. Louis, and Francoeur calls all the Met beat writers. So that's Dave Lennon and Adam Rubin and all these great dudes and all friends of mine. And he goes, I don't know where this Seth guy gets off on Baseball Tonight saying that we lost our clubhouse. We love Jerry Manuel, and we'll stand and we fight for Jerry Manuel. And Seth's wrong. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Immediately, my phone starts ringing. I'm in this little Holiday Inn in Bristol, Connecticut. They're like, what did you do?
You're suddenly the story, or part of it anyway.
And then Monday, Mike Francesa went off on me. He ripped me to shreds. And I was like, I didn't do this. I didn't do it. So I called David Wright and I said, what? And he says, I know what you said. I saw what you said. You didn't say the wrong thing. He says, Frenchie was wrong. And he says, he goes, I'm sure he feels badly about it. I said, it doesn't matter if he feels badly about it.
Yeah.
My name's getting dragged through the mud.
Right. Yeah. You're the one under the dump truck right now. Yeah.
So he says, show up. And that's one thing I learned a long time ago. Lou Piniella actually taught me this. You have the right in the media to say anything. Have the balls to show up and see a guy. And that's totally and that's fine. So the next time they play, I go to their game, and David Wright arranges a meeting with me and Jeff Francoeur in like one of the back rooms of Citi Field. And and I said, they put the headlines there. I didn't put the headline there. I said the truth. I knew what was going on, and I did my research. And I said, you ripped me without even asking. And I found out you didn't even hear what I said.
Yeah.
And so he's like, you're right, man. And I said, that doesn't help me. I said, you gotta come on my radio show. The next day he came on ESPN radio and, came clean.
Cleared the air. That's cool.
And it all's well that ended well. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was a brawl.
I was gonna say for like 72 hours there though. You're
moly.
You're living a nightmare, man. Yep. That's like the worst. That is the worst.
It was crazy. Yeah. It was crazy, but yeah, that was one of my funny ones. Reese Mode, who's Reese Mode? That's another one of your people.
That's Caitlin. Yeah, that's our producer for Geeks Who Like Sports. Also one of our moderators at.
I love
Twitch.
that you have a producer.
Yeah.
You know who my producer for my podcasts are?
You? Yes. To be fair, Caitlin is Caitlin's terrific. To be fair, at first it was just me and Lee, but then we found Caitlin, and Caitlin's awesome, and so we brought her on board, and now she's part of the Geeks Who Like Sports Army. We have an army, Seth. You can be part of our army.
I'll join your army. I'll be a lieutenant in your army here.
Yeah, we'll make you a major or something. Don't worry.
We'll
take care.
A major. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We'll take care of you.
That's better.
And you are a geek, dude. Here's the thing. You do our show, but you do it as two separate shows.
Yeah, right. Because we do a whole sports thing, and then we do a whole comic book thing. Hold on.
Right. Exactly.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on.
Oh yeah. So we Seth was on our show. Be sure to go back to our log and go on Apple Podcasts, if you guys hear podcasts or heard or whatever. As I fill airtime here. By the way, bottom 9, Yankees trying to. Tyler Wade just got gunned down at home in the bottom of the 9th. Would have been the game-winning run. Yankees and Blue Jays still tied at 2. So it's a fielder's choice. LeMahieu to first and Frazier to second. So LeMahieu, the machine, can't get it done there in the bottom of the 9th. So 2 outs now. Yankees runners at first and second as I'm filling time here for Seth.
You're filling time. Okay, ready?
So, well, the Yankees had runners at the corners with 1 out, and LeMahieu just hit into a fielder's race. Hey, there it is. The Geeks Who Like Sports mug. There it is. I should have mine too. Mine's over on my other computer. I was drinking coffee from it this morning. There it is. Thank you for the plug. Much appreciated, buddy. Yeah. So we got merchandise coming. We got lots of merchandise coming, folks. We got new T-shirts coming. It's gonna be a good time.
I have more things that'll make you laugh. Ready?
Okay. Oh, no, I still have my mic flag. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's, folks, 1050 AM ESPN doesn't even exist anymore. It's 98.7 FM now. To show how long ago me and Seth worked together at ESPN.
This is my MLB radio mug.
Nice.
We found this. And if you put hot liquid in here, it would get the Stay in Hot logo would come on.
Oh, nice. That's
cute.
like
a Freezy Freaky in reverse.
Yeah.
But
I have a couple thermoses like that. Yeah, where if depending on what you put in it, it either turns red or blue, which is fun.
And I found one other piece of memorabilia that I can show off since I grabbed your mug. I found all these things. I was like, what can I carry? So 1997/98, the Denver Broncos win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
they beat the Packers.
Yep.
They beat the Packers, and I was
Super Bowl
there.
32. Yep. Nice.
And I covered that team. And speaking of video games, since we're on Twitch, that year, that season, so I was 23 that season, and all the players were like 23, 24, 25. I mean, Alfred Williams, Tyrone Braxton, Shannon Sharp,
Terrell Davis.
Terrell Davis was on that team. So anyway, we started a Madden 97 league.
Oh, that's awesome.
On dial-up. Because if you were playing another person, you were on you had to connect your computer to that other person.
Yeah, and it was only computer to computer at that time because consoles didn't have online for another 6 years, I think.
So we had a league, and the only reason why we couldn't finish our season on time was because they made the playoffs and went to the Super Bowl.
It's a pretty good excuse, Seth. That's a pretty good excuse to
So
delay
they win
league.
the Super Bowl, and at the hotel at the downtown in the Gaslamp district, some hotel, I couldn't tell you the hotel in San Diego, we get invited. We get I get a tip from Jim Sacamano. He's not late. He's still alive, but he's retired. He was the PR guy for the Broncos, and he says, "Come to the We Won the Super Bowl party in this like ballroom in this hotel." And it's packed. It's packed of people, and the players make an entrance, and Mike Shanahan makes a toast. And he then says, everybody, and he's a tiny guy, and he stands up on like a chair, and he gives this like speech, and as everybody's like hanging on his every word, I look at the glass, and I see that it is engraved with Super Bowl 32.
Oh wow!
On that,
that's awesome.
I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, if I can see it, I'm sure the fans can see it. That's fantastic.
Right?
That's that. Yeah.
And I said to the guy I was with, this guy Jeff, and I just looked at him and I said, "This is totally coming home with me." I said, and he's like, "You're not going to break this?" And I said, "I am not going to break this." And I put it in my my briefcase, and I kept checking on it. And I still have this glass from Super Bowl 32. This is my greatest souvenir from Super Bowl 32 because a lot of people got shirts and flags and all kinds of stuff.
Right.
I stole a champagne glass.
Well, yeah, because how many people have that?
Right.
If anybody,
right. Yeah, that's totally is that's like one of my great ones. But yeah, and I had it right next to my
Geeks Who Like Sports. That's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
Funny?
Oh, look at that! Look at that. We're almost Super Bowl champions by proxy. Not even close. Not even close. But it's a fun thought.
It was weird. That's kind of how things happen. All right, Seth, email me to schedule your next appearance. Well, listen, Caitlin, just for the record, if you're trying to book me for your show, shouldn't you be emailing me?
Yeah.
Just saying. You want me to email you going, hey, can I be on your show? It doesn't work like that.
You always have an open invite, Seth. You know that. You can come on whenever you want to plug. Yeah, I know.
Just kidding. Are any of these games finals now?
Yes, Detroit held on and beat Cleveland 3-2. Yankees and Blue Jays are going top 10. Yankees had runners at the corners with one out.
Free baseball. How about that, huh?
Yeah. So getting some extra innings here.
How many strikeouts in this? 10 strikeouts for the Yankees and 10 for the Blue Jays.
Yep, sounds about right. So
Aaron Judge 1 for 5 with 2 strikeouts. Aaron Hicks 2 strikeouts. Giancarlo Stanton 2 strikeouts.
Yeah,
Gleyber Torres a strikeout. Gio Urshela 2 strikeouts. For Craig Biggio's kid has 2 strikeouts. Dante Bichette's kid has 2 strikeouts. And God, that makes me feel 100. I covered Dante Bichette.
Trying to stay on top of the barrel.
Yeah, that's the thing, Seth. We're getting to the point now where the people we watched and people we worked with and whatnot, their kids are playing ball or wrestling or whatever.
I feel like 100. I hate it. When David Wright retired, I said, "You're the last baseball player that I had an adult beverage with." Like all of them, of them. How about this? Twitch just held a message for hostility when he goes, "Wait, you're serious? Baseball did start today? I thought it was an April Fool's joke." They think the word "fools" is. Come on, allow.
Up top 10, Blue Jays just took the lead as Judge misplayed a ball and right. So looks like not a good start to the extra inning there for the Yankees. So womp womp.
And the Phillies lead the Braves 2-0 in the fourth.
Yep, 2-0. The Twins are up on the Brewers 3-2. The Pirates, how about the Buccos up 4-2 on the Cubs? Probably this is the best they'll look all year. That's my prediction. My prediction is the Pirates are going to lose the most games in baseball again. I'm sorry. I think that I look at that team and I think what's his name, Brian Hayes. I think that kid is already counting down the days till his free agency. He can get out of Pittsburgh.
My buddy does the Cubs pre and post. After doing the Bears for 14 years, he got traded. He literally got traded. He went in and Entercom or whatever they're called now traded. I don't know the name of the guy who was on the Cubs broadcast. They literally switched jobs. He got traded from the Bears to the Cubs, and this is, I think, his 3rd year. Isn't that weird?
Wow.
Yeah.
That is weird. I don't really hear a lot about broadcasters getting traded. I'm going to put it out there. I am a free agent. Anybody who wants me. So.
Who do you think is the current best player in baseball? Mike Trout or my Bryce Harper? That's Ethan.
Trout. I think Trout's
healthy. I think Trout's a better player, but Mookie Betts might be a better player than both of them.
That's also true. That is also true. But I think definitely amongst those two, when he's healthy, Mike Trout hands down. But I think Betts is definitely going to be up there. He's going to be fighting for the MVP again in the National League. No doubt about it. Betts is in the middle of a historic kind of prime that we're seeing from him. But yeah, those are in each league. Those are probably the early. I mean, it's day one, but it's probably the early MVP favorites. If you were betting men, you probably say Trout if he stays healthy. Don't count out Abreu in the American League to repeat, but I would say Trout still. National League is Betts. You could see something out of Lindor. I'd also like to see Yelich have a bounce back here. I think Yelich will bounce back after the weird shortened season. I think a lot of guys are going to bounce back, but I think Betts and Trout are the guys in each league right now.
Betts was an interesting story because he gambled on himself, and I applaud him for it because I don't know if I would have done the same thing. When the rumors of the new CBA are going about in the midst, and I have more friends now these days because Manfred hates me, and because of Sports with Friends. Subscribe to Sports with Friends. You'll see why Rob Manfred hates me. And but I have a lot of buddies at the Union, and the Union, a lot of players were panicking. You know, guys who are stars were panicking about the rules of the new CBA because there might be contract limits and there might be all kinds of different rules, payroll slotting. They're talking about all these crazy stuff. And this is when Christian Yelich and Mike Trout and Nolan Arenado and Bryce Harper and all these dudes came and signed these long-term deals. And I had said that I thought Mookie Betts should sign a contract with the Red Sox. And I was in Boston, and a buddy of mine says, you have no idea how much he hates it there. And I said, he's willing to risk it because the CBA comes out in 2021, and if he can force his way out and then get the big contract, he could, because what they want is they want the contract to be grandfathered in.
Right.
That's the argument, is that contracts would all be grandfathered in if the union gets their way. Right. And this whole idea that Mookie Betts just gambled on himself and signed that deal before he even played a game for the Dodgers. And the irony is that's what happened with Lindor.
Yeah. No,
Lindor signed the big contract before he even got the contract.
Yeah. Yeah, he had 1 year left on his deal after the trade, and he signed that 10-year extension and just that new contract. Good on these guys. I mean, look, I'm always for guys betting on themselves and it paying off. I mean, it's like you said, it takes a ridiculous amount of confidence.
It's less risky, but it's still risky.
Oh, for sure.
It's not as risky as like football.
Right, because you don't have guaranteed contracts in the NFL, right? You have an X amount of guaranteed dollars usually written into the contract. And I think that's the thing, is that with baseball, the contracts always favor the player a lot better than the owners, typically. So I think that there's a lot more risk in football for a guy to have a career-ending injury, typically, which is also why those contracts are written the way they are. Good on Betts. I mean, he proved it last year that why he is probably one of the best players, is definitely one of the best players in the game. And I think Lindor is trying to do the same thing. And I think that we're going to see, I think he'll have a very good year for the Mets. I don't know if he'll be an MVP year. I know the Mets want him to have an MVP year, but he'll have a very good year. And again, if I was making predictions here, I think the Mets are a wild card team. I think the Braves still win the division. And I'll say right now, Mets and Padres in the wild card. I still think the Dodgers.
The one game, but they're returning to the 1 game wild card.
Correct. It's the 1 game wild card, do or die. But that would be amazing. Could you imagine Snell versus DeGrom in a 1 game wild card?
Well, the beauty of that, I'm a big proponent of the 1 game wild card. Mm-hmm. I like the 1 game wild card because, first of all, teams do not like multiple days off.
True.
So what a team will tell you is they love 1 day. They hate, they'll take 2 days. They can't stand 3 or more days because it ruins all your routine. You get out of all your rhythm. And so if you have division winners and you had a best of 3 wild card series, you would literally have to take the division winners and not reward them.
Yeah. Yeah, because otherwise you'd have the division winners. You'd have them. They'd be off for a week,
right?
Almost, if you had a best of 3 series. So you'd have to figure out something. That's the only good thing about the expanded playoffs last year, was that every team played, even though they were short series, best of 3, right? Every team was playing that first round in order to get things going. So I think that. If you were to expand in the playoffs and do, basically what other sports do, right? You have hockey and basketball have 8 teams from each of their conference. Obviously, football has moved up to 7 teams per conference, and only the 1 team gets a bye week. But in football, they're used to off days. They're used to bye weeks. They're used to that.
Right.
They're a bit more.
It's totally different, right?
Right, exactly. Whereas, hockey and basketball, them too, it's certain, kind of the same thing. Hockey guys, day on, day off, day on, day off, day on. You don't want, like you said, you don't want that routine ruined. And especially in a game like baseball, where it is that marathon, right? Where it is, you get used to playing 6 games in 7 days. or 7 games in 8 days or whatever it may be, especially in the summer, you kind of want to just keep that going, because then if you start to cool off, that's also kind of probably when a lot of times these guys start to get hurt and they start to get rusty. You start to you start to tighten up after a few days off, so yeah, no, definitely. I think if baseball is going to expand, they have to do it that way. Or like you said, they have to maintain 1-game playoff for the wild cards, and then just get right into the divisional series, so that a lot of these teams who have
can't have that many days off. In the playoffs, as it is, there's so many extra days. Jim writes, he says the division winners are up to 4 days now. Wild card games are Tuesday and Wednesday, so one division winner won't start until Friday. You're right, and it sucks.
Yeah,
and the players hate it. And if you were going to expand, and I thought last year they were huge losses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a lot of trouble taking the owners at face value when they start talking about huge losses, because if you want, and I've said this line 3,000 times, open up the books for 2019, 2018, 2017, 2016, 2015, how far you want to go back. They have slush funds that could have paid the players last year. So this argument that they were losing so much money because of the pandemic was garbage. And so what I had suggested, because there were losses, they added that extra round, because ESPN was like, we'll take an extra round of playoffs. We don't want extra regular season games. If you look at the ESPN contract, they're doing less games. And that's hysterical to me, because what league signs with a network to have less content?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. It's
it's bonkers.
Kind of
it's bonkers.
It's bass backwards.
So the idea for the playoffs is, I like the second wild card, and I can swear to you, there's a cassette in my basement somewhere where it's me in like 1998 talking about the wild card, because if you remember back then, there was no incentive. You'd have 2 teams and one was locked into the wild card, and they wouldn't care who won and who didn't. Right. Like, one extra game of home field advantage wasn't enough to bust your ass and use your best pitchers, and it was more important to set up your rotation, and those were the rules. And I said, if you're going to have 1 wild card, you got to have 2, because then make the incentive to win your division, to not have to play this one winner-take-all game.
Yeah, and again, in one game, you never know what's going to happen.
And I love those.
That's the thing, No, exactly. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, I think the addition of the second wild card is a good idea. I think keeping it at 1 game. But again, I mean, I think really just the best thing overall would just be expand the playoffs. Expand the playoffs, I think, to the point where you have it as, again, like you had it last year. You have 8 teams from each league. Obviously, also baseball, I think, needs to expand in general, but I don't think the money's there right now to a 32-team league. And get to the point where it's even in both, so it's 16 and 16. Everything matches up nicely. You have these nice brackets, like every other sport, especially because that's what people are used to at this point. And I think that I know that there's going to be traditionalists out there who are gonna him and haw, but I'm gonna be like, look, the honest truth is it's time for baseball to join us in the 21st century. And I think that having it where it's a 1 seed versus an 8 seed, and having 8 teams and having a proper bracket, I think would be good. And again, it goes to the point where if every team is playing that 3-game weekend, then you don't have any of those off days anymore. I think it's again, 3-game round, 5-game round, 7-7. I think I really liked how that worked last year, and it also made for some great stories. The Marlins were a great story last year, even though, and actually somehow had more fans in the stands than the season before because they never have anybody show up anyway. So, no, it's I think the Marlins were a great story last year, and a team that was only a couple games over 500, but they made the playoffs. They beat the Cubs in that first round, and they actually look, that's the kind of stuff you get, these kind of stories now, and that helps propel the popularity of your league, and also would help some of these lower teams that desperately need that revenue and need that run. The Pirates are terrible now, but a few years ago when they were hovering around 500, you don't think Pittsburgh would have been a big deal for Pittsburgh to be an 8 seed and sneak into the playoffs for a couple of years?
See, I would do it differently. I would do the Dark Stroke says Stanton is 0 for 4 and just struck out. Talk about overrated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like if everyone who watches me knows, I am not a Giancarlo Stanton fan. The dude strikes out too much. He is the prototypical player that we were talking about, guy who just swings for the fences. I mean, when he connects, it's a moonshot. It's an amazing thing. But the dude, and especially as a DH, he gets in his own. He just sits there, gets in his own head. I'm sorry. I think that was one of the worst trades that Cashman has made in a long time, and Cashman's made a lot of bad ones. I
remember he had a great line at the winter meetings when he made the Stanton deal. That was at the winter meetings in Orlando, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I believe, yeah.
They're all bleeding together. Anyway, there was a winter meetings in Orlando, and I was there, and we were getting into this conversation with a bunch of people in the media, and I'll name drop. Ready? This will be my name drop. Christopher Mad Dog Russo was in our little group of like 4
Nice.
people, and he can't say anything quiet. He's a loud dude. And we were having this conversation about the strikeouts, right? It was all about the strikeouts. And my buddy Kneebrace here is there. Thank you, man. And it was all about and Russo was agreeing, but he was saying it in a Chris Russo way.
Yeah.
And Brian Cashman walks over and he says, I can't argue with the thing you guys are saying. And he had just acquired Stanton that afternoon. And I looked at him and I just said, you're part of the problem. What are you talking about? And he called me aside, and not in a playful way, like not arguing, but he said, right. My job is to win, not to entertain you.
Yeah.
And the argument from people who are saying don't legislate anything, don't change the shift, don't change anything, people will acknowledge, and I will be the first person to acknowledge, the sabermetric way of generating offense works. It's boring as all get out, but it works.
Right. No,
and that's a major difference.
No, I mean, I get that, but again, Stanton 0 for 4 today with 3 strikeouts. You know, he has his opportunities, and he swings for the fences or he strikes out. And it's, again, to me, I get it. He had one good playoff run last year, right? He had 6 home runs in 6 games or whatever last year, and I get that, right? But that's a very small. That's a very small sample of him over the course of now several years in pinstripes. Where this dude got hurt sliding into second base. And he's made of glass at this point. And the thing is that he wasn't any better in Miami. He was constantly hurt. Yes, when he's on the field, he's an MVP guy. But also, you're saying, he's taking advantage of the short porch at Yankee Stadium. His home run numbers are the same as they were basically in Miami.
Yeah.
And the thing is that with the Yankees gave up in that opportunity and to take on, and now with under Hal Steinbrenner, they're so worried about the luxury tax and all this other stuff. This dude is not worth the price tag.
But they won't eat the money. They won't eat the money to get rid of him. And
that's the worst part, is that I would trade this guy and take on half his salary for a decent pitcher in a heartbeat. In fact, I do it in MLB The Show all the time. It's the first thing I do is trade Stanton. But it's you
don't import your seasons.
And well, yeah, I don't import. I don't import. I like starting over fresh every year, along with spring renewal. The hope springs eternal.
You start over. You clean it up. See, I don't want to do that. I want to just build my franchise. I'm in my first season on NHL 21, and I want to get to like season 10.
No, that's cool. And
my
that's
plan was to simulate a bunch of games, but screw it. I'm having too much fun.
I'm the same way. I usually play like every game, and it's just, and what I love to do too is I listen to podcasts.
Well, I watch TV. What I'll do is I have 2 monitors here, and I'll put, if I'm streaming, then I try to pay attention. But if I'm not, and it's like 5 a.m, because what I do when I do my early morning radio is you file 2 reports and then you have to wait 20 minutes. So I'll play a period, and you know what I mean? Like you can go back and forth and back and forth. And what I'll do is I'll put a TV show on one screen and I'll put my game on the other screen, and I'll literally and I lower the volume of NHL, but I keep the volume on because I just want to hear the crowd.
Yeah,
Such a nerd. All right, last thing before we let you go. And I really appreciate this, buddy. I really do. And
this was a lot of fun. I appreciate you having me on, dude.
We can do this again. We can do this anytime you want.
Yeah, let me know whenever. Yeah, you ever need me, Seth? I'm happy to always talk baseball and stuff and games and just sports in general and stuff.
Yes,
Yankees just lost, by the way.
But just so we're clear, Caitlin, when I want Ray, I will reach out to Ray and ask him to come on the show. I'm such a jerk. I have some breaking comic book news.
Oh.
Comic book movie news, not comic book news.
Okay.
Warner Brothers and DC Films is not moving forward with Ava DuVernay's New Gods, as well as James Wan's Aquaman spinoff, The Trench.
Wow.
It's pretty big news.
That is, because that basically... I think this is actually a good thing. I think that they need to start consolidating all these universes. I think this is also a message to kind of let people know, hey, listen, anything that was even closely related, somewhat near the Snyderverse, it ain't happening. We're done. You got your Snyder cut. We're done with this. We're putting a pin on it. You'll get Aquaman 2. Black Adam will probably be its own thing, which, by the way, Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. Yes, great casting. But this is a I think this is a good thing. I think this is fine. And honestly, the New Gods, Seth, you and I know the New Gods, but
Nobody
that is such a
knows
deep.
Right.
That is such a deep.
You could make
cut.
that argument for Dr. Fate too. Nobody knows him too.
Yeah, but like you make it Pierce Brosnan, and you put him next to The Rock. People will see that no matter what you call him. Right? Like you can call them Tom and Jerry and people would go watch that movie. Like those are movie stars, you know? Like
I can make fun of myself. Ready? I've only seen one movie with The Rock in my life. One movie with The Rock, and it's Moana.
Okay, at least it's a good one. I was going to say, is it the Tooth Fairy or something? At least it's a good one.
No, my friend is starting a podcast where they review 10 movies of an actor, and they wanted my help, just coming up with like a show opener, just a little editing help. And so I talked to them, and I had a Zoom call with these two, and they were talking about, and they're like, "We're gonna do The Rock for season 1," and I'm like, "What has he been in?" Tooth Fairy is good. Jim writes, "Please no Batman debate. Adam West hands down." Oh God. We love Adam West. That's not the point.
Yeah, no, yeah. It was a very, very different era when Adam West wore the tight tights.
All right, tell people about the video game you made.
Yes, Cobra Kai Card Fighter. It is a free-to-play iOS and Android game. You can get it on your phone or your tablet. It is free to play. It is a card battling game. It's rock, paper, scissors very much. It's you play cards to do moves, and then you level up your characters. The characters you can play in the show Cobra Kai. Punches beat throws beat kicks beat punches. And you can level them up from white belt to black belt, and you kind of replay through the events of the first 2 seasons of the show. And we got a lot of big stuff planned. The game just came out, but we're going to have tournaments being added soon with prizes. We've got Stingray is our season pass right now. So you can get him as a premium character. But if you don't want to spend any money, that's totally cool. That's the beauty of a free-to-play game. You can get all the major stuff in the game for free. Just play it consistently, and hopefully we'll see you on the leaderboards, or we'll see you in action. It's a lot of fun. If you like Cobra Kai, it's kind of got like a cartoony, stylized art style to it, but I think it's a lot of fun. And if you're just looking to kill some time on your phones, it's a great way to
and
to
just
do it.
Go to Ray Carcillo and follow him on Twitch, and he plays the games, but he doesn't jibber jabber like we do. I'll play the game and I'll talk about like my, super friends and all kinds of dumb topics. And what he does is he actually does play-by-play of the games.
Yeah, I do the play-by-play.
This is what I do. I go, That's my play-by-play.
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of people don't realize the mental capacity it takes to do play-by-play and play the game.
Oh my God, that's so hard. Oh,
like people give me, like, you're only playing on medium. I'm like, yeah, because if I played it on hard, I couldn't do this. Like, it takes a lot. But It's I think we have a good time there. A lot of the regulars who are always swinging by. We're back to hockey tonight, and then tomorrow a new game that comes out called Outriders. Actually, super excited for that from Square Enix. That'll be our new game Friday. So if you're looking for something a little different, swing by tomorrow night for sure.
All right, don't go anywhere. Everybody, stick around. I need 60 seconds because I got to get a drink of water, or else I'm gonna go. I'm gonna pass out here. I'm gonna run and grab water real quick. Thanks to Ray Carcillo. Stacy Gutsulias is gonna join us. She's from the Locked On Yankees podcast. She might wear a jersey. I'm telling you. I picked 2 goddamn Yankee fans to be on the show tonight. Ray, thanks, man.
Thank you, Seth. Much appreciated, buddy. Have a good rest of your opening day, and we'll talk later.
Yes, we will. And 60 seconds. I'll be right back. All right, that was easy. And there were 2 things I had to do. I had to get a water. Got the water. But also, my window had been open because it was literally 2 hours ago. It was a lot warmer. And now it's freezing in my room, and I feel like I'm in the press box of a baseball game because it is literally very, very cold. All right, let's welcome in Stacy here, and I'll do a better intro here. It is freezing. See when she can hear us. There she goes. She's going to turn her camera on. Look at that. And it looks like she's on the center of the sun. Very cool. Well, let's welcome in. She's the host of the Locked On Yankees podcast, part of the Locked On Sports little radio network there. And she's been a writer. She's a broadcaster, and she's an all-around rock star. She's a great follow on Twitter. She's hysterical on Twitter. She also does music countdowns, which I have to ask her about. Let's welcome in and be nice to her. Let's welcome in Stacy Gutsulias. Am I saying your name correctly?
Perfect. Yes.
Look at that. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome. How's your opening day been?
I just got out of the shower, so I missed the Yankees losing.
Wait a minute. You do a Locked On Yankees podcast. They're in extra innings, and that's the time you chose to take a shower?
I couldn't do. Remember how I was saying how I was having trouble sleeping? Today was the one day where my body decided, hey, you're not waking up till 10 in the morning. And then I was rushing to do my show for today. And then opening day started and I had no time. So here I am.
So why did you do a podcast before the game? Why wouldn't you do it after the game?
Because they prefer us to do it earlier in the day to do a preview of opening day. Plus there's no game tomorrow. So I need something to talk about on tomorrow's show. So I'll recap the game then.
But you won't record it tonight? You'll record it tomorrow?
I'll probably record it tonight. Now that I'm all hooked up here, I'll do it. I'll probably do it after this.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Well, we've been having a big conversation on optimism. We've been talking a lot about whether or not the optimism of opening day that you remember growing up and I remember growing up exists in this sport with all of the issues. You know, there's the COVID issues, but really that hasn't been a big theme today. It's more about the issues about too many strikeouts and not enough contact, and also the labor situation that's coming at the end of the year. What's your thought on the overall optimism of opening day?
Well, I feel a lot of people were excited for it just because fans were allowed in the stadium. Wasn't as
That's
many.
a big part of it, right?
Yeah, because it was so odd seeing baseball games played without fans last year, and with them piping in the fake noise and having the cardboard cutouts, and the players felt it too. So even at Yankee Stadium, just having 10,000 people probably, hyped them up a little more than just walking out onto a field and playing for no one. And for the fans, it was exciting for them to be in the stadium again. I think they said the last time that people were at Yankee Stadium was 541 days ago. So that's a long time between baseball games with fans. And, you could tell the fans were really excited. I was excited to see everyone there. And there is a bit of optimism. I mean, I know the news of the Mets and Nats being canceled because of COVID kind of put a damper on everything.
Right.
But
my joke at the beginning of the show was at least the Red Sox got canceled like a regular team.
Right. Yeah, the weather in New York, it was really bad overnight, windy, rainy, kind of crazy.
I had my window open when we started. I'm freezing in here.
And I know that upstate they were getting 10 inches of snow in some places. And, the sun started coming out around the third or fourth inning, and it just looked like a normal opening day. So, I mean, it's different. And I know a lot of fans don't really think about the labor stuff. Regular fans that aren't on Twitter, aren't really connected that much. They'll watch the games, they'll sometimes listen to the radio, but they're not as into the labor stuff as like you and I are, because we know more about it from covering everything all the time.
Job, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We kind of have to know.
Right.
I remember when I worked for MLB in early 2000s, there was literally a clause in my contract that if there were games canceled for whatever reason, like if the league shut down for whatever reason, they have automatic right to termination.
Wow.
And I remembered that. So when I covered the 2002 almost strike,
right,
I was very invested in it. I was like, I hope this works a certain way. Like this was a big deal. And I'll always remember the almost strike. And I just think that, the differences in that strike and the 90s one where they canceled the World Series, and I was in college when that happened, as were you.
Me too.
And it was very simple argument. Number one, they hated each other, and number two, it was salary cap or no. That was the debate. This seems so much more complicated, where there's talk about payroll slotting, and there's talk about term limits. They're talking about position-based contracts. They're talking about some contracts being guaranteed, some not.
Right.
I mean, they're looking at the moon, and I'm just like, wow, I wish you had spent 2020 just figuring that out. Like that.
Right.
That was your goal. That's your priority, not this nonsense.
Right. I was at one of the last games at Yankee Stadium in '94 before the strike. And actually, I have a funny story from that night. When I was in college, I loved Mike Lupica, read him all the time, was obsessed with his columns. And some of my writing style came from how he would write a column and then he would just fire off random facts about things. I kind of love doing that. We're at Yankee Stadium at the main level. We get separated from my father. My father was very tall. He was 6'2". For some reason, Mike Lupica was standing in front of my father, and he knew how much I liked him. And my dad whistled at me, and I turned around and I look, and he pretends to bop Mike Lupica on the head as he's standing behind him. And I was like, Dad, don't do that. Mike Lupica kind of turned around like, what's going on? And yeah, it was pretty funny. But that whole game, people were chanting, no strike, no strike. And the feeling in the ballpark was we were really worried about it and really upset that it could happen. And then it happened, I think, 3 days later.
Yeah, 94. Boy, this conversation took a dark turn. The 94, I was an intern for WFAN, and I always joke with people who had the internship the year before me or the year after me or even since then that no one had a better internship than I did, because in 1994 the Rangers won the Stanley Cup, the Knicks went to the NBA Finals,
right.
The OJ happened, and the baseball strike, and you covered that in one summer. Like, It was the greatest experience in the world, and it was all these massive New York stories. And like, I knew two friends that had the internship the year at Mark Feinstein is one of them. He covered.
Oh, I love Mark. Yeah,
he had the '95 internship, and he didn't have any of that.
That's funny.
He didn't, and it was one of the greatest summers. So I was. We all got to put our names down to go to like 2 Met games because they were the flagship for the Mets. And
Right.
John Schweibacher, who's still there, he invited, and I picked the last day before the strike. But I didn't know that because
of course,
when we selected him, that wasn't the plan, you know. And the only people that got to rearrange were the people who picked games after the strike because we all thought it was coming. And I went to the last day that season. I remember the Mets. I remember going, and I wasn't a Mets fan, but I was thrilled to be there. And I remember the guys were like, "Should I even bother running this out? Like, like this is all over." And you know, the only thing that refreshed my memory of that was after Adam Silver canceled the NBA season because of COVID. That game between the Mavericks and the Nuggets kept going, and everybody didn't know, like, how serious is this? Like, this is the last game of the season. What are we doing? Why are we even on the court? And yet they were playing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and I said, that feels like the strike. Right. It felt to me, it felt the same way. I think baseball's in deep shit. I really do. And I think that sport, it's not the same. Tony Clark's a good dude, and Manfred, even though he's a criminal, doesn't hate Tony Clark.
Right. He seems to hate baseball, but he doesn't hate Tony Clark.
He's such a clown. He's such a clown. So my story with Rob Manfred is he was the lawyer in 2002 for the league, and he would do the negotiations. And my job was I had to host this radio show, and then I had to go over to Park Avenue and basically camp out. And we had to go live if there was either a settlement or a strike.
Right.
And Rob Manfred and I would get pizza. And a couple times we went to a bar. Like I've had beers with him. And I never thought for 1 second, and I have testified to this, that he would be commissioner.
Really?
I was like, there's no freaking way. Like him? No way. Because I would have been a lot nicer to him. I would have. See?
You never know.
You never know. Jimmy Lee Solomon, the late great Jimmy Lee Solomon, who unfortunately passed away last fall. I always thought he'd be commissioner. I always thought they would go for him, and he was the guy. And I used to kiss his ring. Like I was like, he was the man. And he left baseball, and they made Manfred the commissioner. And I was like, wow, I pegged that really wrong.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen on Twitter, but I have the meme. It says Rob Manfred is bad.
Yeah, he's just.
And I made it look like one of those 80s memes.
Right, but you started that during COVID. Like that,
I started before that, but yeah, I really ramped it up during COVID.
See, my thing with Manfred is it comes from my podcast, and we're going to plug your podcast too, but you can subscribe to Sports with Friends on any podcast platform. There is a guy, his name is Eddie Dominguez, and he was a security guy for Major League Baseball stationed in Boston. He's a former Boston police detective, and he was in charge of the security for the Red Sox. And I met him because when I worked for MLB, we would go to this program. You would have loved this. It was so much fun. There was this conference in January every year in this hole-in-the-wall, beautiful golf resort in middle of nowhere, Virginia. And you would go for 5 days. It was like a Wednesday through Sunday, and it was called the Rookie Career Development Program. Mm. And your job was, teams would select 3 to 5 players that they saw as guaranteed lock-em major leaguers.
Okay.
This is the conference, by the way, where Jeter met A-Rod.
Wow.
Just I wasn't at that conference, but I was at the conference like 3 years later. Just to put some context in this.
Okay.
And my job was one of the lectures. So there would be lectures on how to deal with teammates. There would be lectures on how to deal with huge sums of money. There would be lectures on how to deal with gambling. There would be, and one of the lectures was media. And I went and I was part of the panel that spoke about the media. And my job for the 5 days was to interview every player there. And for them, it was part of their like curriculum. So they had to interview with me because that was practice.
Right.
And that's where I met Josh Beckett and Barry Zito and David Wright and all these players. And Eddie was one of the guys that was a coordinator for all this. And it's always the weekend of the divisional playoff game. This story is going way off on a tangent. But you would always go for the NFL playoffs, and there was always a football game that Saturday night. And all the players, all these future major league players would go there, and that's where you met them all. You remember Scott Proctor?
Sure, of course. Oh, hello, gave up the home run in game 162.
I could tell you where I was when I met Scott Proctor. He was sitting right at the bar, like we were, and the Raiders were in the playoffs. That's what I remember we were watching. So anyway, Eddie Dominguez, when the Mitchell report came out, I'll hit the gas on this thing. So I was longtime friends with this guy Eddie, and Eddie, when the Mitchell report came out, was named to the investigation commission that Senator Mitchell made. And he was in charge of investigating steroid cases.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember, Manny Ramirez gets pinched for steroids when he was with the Dodgers. And Eddie says to Rob Manfred, hey, let me have like an hour with Manny. I'll find out who his dealer is. I'll get everything. I know him. And he says, no. And Manny Ramirez tells Eddie later he would have given up Anthony Bosch, who wound up becoming the guy that got A-Rod.
Oh, the biogenesis.
So Eddie gets really, really close and eventually gets fired by MLB, by Manfred. And he writes a book, called Baseball Cop.
Oh, right. Yes.
This is a great book. This is a absolutely amazing book. And it's co-written with Terry Thompson and Christian Redd, who are two of the great investigative journalists of our time.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did on my Sports with Friends podcast was I did 25 minutes with Eddie, and then I did 20 minutes with Terry and with Christian to validate what Eddie was claiming. And he accuses Manfred of overseeing human trafficking. Like, it's not even a joke.
God.
This is a crazy book about what went on in baseball. And when the book was being released, MLB tried to send a cease and desist, tried to get him to not release it. And I did the podcast, and I had to hold off because the lawyer had to approve the podcast so we could release it. And all I know is Rob Manfred subscribes to Sports with Friends. And in 2019, the World Series, the Nationals are in the World Series. And the rule with credentials, this is more for the audience, the rule with credentials is if you're getting credentials and you can't go, you have to tell someone. You can't just not show.
Right.
They will take your credential. You'll be blacklisted. You'll never get to go to another game again. Like, it's okay if you can't go, but you have to have a reason. So I emailed my buddies at MLB, and I had something. I had something up in Syracuse. And I was going up to Syracuse for the weekend, and I couldn't go to D.C. You couldn't do D.C. and Syracuse at the same time. And I said, I can't go to the World Series. And he said, "Oh, that's too bad, because Robbie was looking for you." And I said, "Oh, well, maybe I can see him in New York, because I live in New Jersey." And he says, he goes, "Cool, let's see about that. Let's try to set that up." And I said, "Great, I'll bring my microphone and we can do an episode of Sports with Friends." And I got told, no.
Nice try.
He wants to talk to you first. Podcast maybe later. And we set it up for like March 20th, 2020, and COVID.
Of course.
And it never happened. And then he botched the COVID stuff. And I said, "Holy crap, I am never getting him on my podcast." But yeah, that's the history that I have with Rob Manfred. And if I had known he was going to be commissioner, screw it, man. I would have been totally different with him.
I'm trying to think of anyone. Do I know of anyone who made it in baseball that I would have been nicer to? I don't think so. I don't think so. There's some people who, you follow me on Twitter, so you know how I can be. But
Why
there
don't
are
you
certain.
Explain what that means?
Well, sometimes I can be slightly obnoxious. I used to be worse when I was younger. I've matured a bit. But there are certain writers and broadcasters that I'm shocked follow me because I've gotten into arguments with them in previous years. And then they suddenly follow me a couple years later. And I know they know it's me. And I don't know why they're following me, but okay,
Do most of the people that follow you for what you do on Twitter, or do you think it's because of your podcast?
Oh, it's definitely Twitter. Yeah, I would say most of them are Twitter. I've been on Twitter since, when did I go on? November of 2008. So I've been on Twitter a long time.
Have you been active on it since 2008?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I joined it in 2009, but I didn't know what the hell I was doing until like 2012.
Oh, I didn't know what I was doing. The first, I would say 3 months, I was tweeting as if I were leaving Facebook statuses on the way home from work, on the way to work. I didn't know what I was doing. And it really started out as me trying to find fellow Yankee fans. And I did. And I found a really cool group of Yankee fans that I'm still friends with. We used to go to games together all the time, or we'd meet up at games because we'd have different, tickets in different places. Cool. And yeah, it's very strange because
it's very social. That's what social is.
Well, that's what social media should be. And It's kind of funny because I don't leave my house ever. And I've met so many people from Twitter at Yankee Stadium. That's really the only place I ever meet people. But yeah.
Because they say it's dangerous anywhere else.
Right. But social media should be that way. Like I said, it's a really fun group of people. We meet up at games every once in a while. After games, we hang out at this bar just up the block from Yankee Stadium, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
There was it's very cool. And what I find in New York, that's harder than in smaller places, and not small towns per se, but like when I was with the Mariners, I saw a lot of people that I would see at the ballpark at local places right by there because there wasn't so many places to go. What I find is, everybody who's leaving Yankee Stadium is going to Manhattan. They're not going to the Bronx.
Right.
No one's hanging out in the Bronx at 10:30 at night when a game's over. Right.
Well, some of us do, but no, most people don't.
Tooth Pete, by the way, thank you for the raid. And welcome, by the way. The camaraderie, you're an interesting social media person because you are more personality than anything. When I joined Twitter, I was told 70% personality, 30% promotion, and that you're there to promote your stuff, but really people will follow you because you're you, and they'll see what you're promoting, not the other way around.
Right.
And that was something that I learned really, really quickly. And I learned it on the day of Whitney Houston's funeral. So dumb. I had never had a tweet that was liked a lot. Like I didn't know what I was doing. And the only time I had a Twitter vitriol was when in 2011 I worked for the Phillies, and I'm a big Devils fan. And the Devils were playing the Flyers, and I had a newborn, and I took her to the mall, and I was pushing her in the stroller so she'd take a goddamn nap. And the Devils were playing the Flyers in Philly, and they were winning like 5-0. And all I tweeted was, every one of these goals feels great. And all my following were Phillies people because I had just worked for the Phillies. And they were like, "You're a traitor. You're not one of us." And I was like, "I'm not one of you. Like, I like your baseball team. That's all." But a guy, I don't want to put his name on here, but this guy that's pretty active on Twitter, he told me about that idea. He just said, do stuff that's your personality, something that you would say on TV or the radio, say it online. And Whitney Houston died. And do you remember Bobby Brown left the funeral because he didn't like where he was sitting?
Yes.
That was like a story, right? And all I said was,
nerve.
As a father, I said, I think that's garbage. And that tweet didn't go anywhere. But the next one I said was, to punish Bobby Brown, I'm officially deleting my prerogative off my iPhone forever.
I think I remember that.
And that was like my first tweet that like actually went somewhere. Like I was like, yes, I did it.
Yeah. I think my most viral tweet was insulting Aubrey Huff last season. Basically because he was complaining that the Giants weren't going to invite him to the 2010 anniversary. Not that that even mattered because it didn't happen. But they either decided never to invite him or I don't think is it uninvite or disinvite? What's the word?
I think it's uninvite.
Right. Okay. And I can't remember exactly what I said, but it got about 6,800 likes, which is my most seen tweet. Nice. And I just thought it was funny that I was bad mouthing Aubrey Huff of all people.
Jerk.
But he's really something.
Well, and the scary thing about Aubrey Huff is I met Aubrey Huff when he was a rookie. And my best friend who was killed, Daryl Hamilton, former outfielder. Daryl, for those of you who don't know, Daryl Hamilton played in the big leagues. He played for the Brewers, the Giants, the Texas Rangers, finished his career with the Mets. And when he retired, he joined Major League Baseball radio, and he was my partner. And he was killed in 2015. And Daryl, when he was out of baseball, he was asked to mentor Aubrey Huff in the minor leagues. And Aubrey Huff was so shy and wasn't saying what his opinions about anything were. And Daryl talked this guy up like, that Aubrey Huff, he's going places. And I was like, okay. And, he had his playing career and that was fine. And I think I had him on a radio show here or there. Daryl would have him on, that was but we never talked politics or, anything serious. We just talked about baseball and stuff. And when he became this racist, disgusting asshole, I wrote to him and I just said, you are sullying Daryl's memory. Like, this guy vouched for you. And you are just a clown.
Yeah, he's, I blocked him a while ago because I don't like seeing his nonsense, but every once in a while I'll peek if I see him trending, because most of the time he'll say something so bad that he ends up, you'll see trending Aubrey Huff, 15.6 thousand tweets. And you think to yourself, oh God, what did he say now? And, curiosity gets the best of me. I mean, I have a bunch of people blocked, but I still look at what they say. And that was my most viral tweet. I do have a goal in 2021 because I'm sick and tired of seeing people who tweet the most mundane things getting 300,000 likes around the world. And I'm trying to figure out how to get, like, even if I just get a tweet with 20,000 likes, that'll be my goal for 2021. Because someone can say, I went to the bathroom and it gets 18,000 likes.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
I don't know. I don't know. You're how did you get hooked on with David Locke?
Well, I've been writing about baseball for a while. I started blogging full time about baseball in 2011, so 10 years ago. And slowly worked my way from doing it for free to actually having people pay for my writing. And in June of 2018, I was actually approached by Jesse Spector, who is with Deadspin now, but he was running Locked On Yankees then. And he said, would you like to take over? Because back then it was the podcast, but also writing. Like there was an actual site that went with the podcast. So there were articles written and podcast episodes. And at first I didn't even host. There were 4 or 5 hosts that did shows, and I just made sure the podcast went up and edited writing. And then within about a month and a half, everyone left me. And then David got the idea of just making it podcasting, no writing. And I started doing it by myself full-time July of 2018. So I'm coming up on my 3rd anniversary soon of doing it. It's kind of funny because I used to be terrified of podcasting and anything like that. Even, people would ask me to be on them with them, and I would have panic attacks just thinking about being on. Wow. And now it's become second nature. I mean, I record, I edit, I do whatever I need to do in a certain amount of time. It's basically second nature now.
That's cool. That's cool. And have you ever, you have a lot of other interests. So like besides baseball, like, do you ever want to get involved in projects with other things?
I've always wanted to write.
You just want to stick around in baseball. It just, what I find is most people I know that are in baseball either have this unconditional love for it or they're trying like heck to get out of it.
I like working in baseball. I didn't think that this would really turn into anything, and it's getting bigger and bigger. The Locked On Network is expanding all the time. We're going to start doing video soon. I liked writing about baseball, and then something happened where my brain almost forgot how to write about baseball. I don't know what happened. It was almost like my engine just stopped. Like my tank was full. It was almost as if I had written everything I could have possibly written about. And not that I don't write, I write my scripts and stuff like that for the podcast, but I love podcasting. I mean, if I could have 6 podcasts at the same time, but different ones, because I can't do a 5-day-a-week show along with Locked On Yankees. I'd have to do something else.
Right. No, I get it. Like Hall of Justice is different than Sports with Friends. Right. And and they're totally separated from each other. And anytime one show mentions the other one, it's like crossing the streams. It feels very unnatural.
Well, you had mentioned my countdowns that I like to do.
Tell me about the countdowns.
Okay. Well, I love 80s music because, we grew up in the 80s, so I like 80s music. Okay. And SiriusXM has the 80s on 8, and they do the actual top 40 countdowns from the dates that they choose. And they have Nina Blackwood, Alan Hunter, and Mark Goodman from MTV doing the countdowns. The 70s on 70s actually replays the old Casey Kasem countdowns as they happened, which is really cool. I like listening to those too.
Okay.
But I would follow along with the countdown, and I would tweet them out, and people would respond to them. And I didn't really do the full countdown. And then I got the idea to do the actual countdown. And so I prepare my blurbs. Takes me nearly 2 hours sometimes if it's a completely new countdown.
That's such a lot of work.
It actually is. People don't realize it because I'm looking up the songs. I'm looking things up on Wikipedia. Then I'm going to Billboard to make sure that the numbers are right, because sometimes they're not, and see where they peaked on the chart, what the date was. I go to YouTube. I'll attach the video if I can find it. And it takes me nearly 2 hours to do it if they're songs that I haven't done before. Now I've gotten the habit of going on Twitter, searching.
You save them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But I love doing it. People respond to it. A lot of people love 80s music. Some of the younger kids who follow me, one of my fellow Locked On hosts, she's only 27, but she's like, I love 80s music and I love your countdowns. I love what you listen to. It's so much fun.
It's so fun.
Yeah. I mean, if I could turn that into a podcast, I would, but I don't know how I would even do that.
Well, you could. I mean, as long as you play like 20 to 25 seconds of a song, you could do a top 10 or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I did attempt to do a pop culture podcast for our age group. I did a few episodes. My favorite one I did with my colleague, Paul Francis Sullivan. We talked about Xanadu for an hour and a half because we're two of the only people in the world who love that movie. And
the show that I listened to, they just had a video thing where they had to mention their favorite bad movie, and this one guy said his favorite bad movie was Xanadu.
Yeah, we talked about it for an hour and a half.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I love that movie.
That movie's not even an hour and a half.
It's about an hour and 18, I think.
Oh my God.
Yeah. No, I love that movie. I might try to relaunch that podcast because I do have people who want to come on and talk to me about certain things, because I was aiming it at people around our age who grew up on the pop culture of the late 70s all through the 80s into the 90s, right. Talking about music, talking about TV shows, talking about even sports stuff that happened during that time. That would be fun to explore. I had Mike Gianella on from Baseball Prospectus. We talked about old commercials from the New York City area in the 80s, like the Ritz Thrift Shop that were always on. And the Ritz Thrift Shop commercial, do you remember that commercial?
Which one?
With the lady riding the bus and wearing the fur, and
yes.
The guy, they tell her how nice the coat is. Oh, thank you. That first aired in 1975, I believe, and it ran until like 1990.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I have ideas for other podcasts that aren't necessarily sports. I've had a manuscript of a book that I started in 2003 that I haven't finished. And it's kind of about baseball. It's a chick lit novel where this ordinary girl who works for a TV rep firm, which is kind of what I was doing in the early 2000s, meets a famous baseball player who is infamous for dating models and actresses, but he meets her and starts dating her, and her life gets turned upside down because she's not a model and not an actress. And the New York paparazzi goes nuts because they're like, why is he dating her?
That's
and I got about 30,000 words into it.
Oh.
And I never finished it. And the baseball player character's name, Dane Jackson.
Ooh.
Who could that have been about?
That's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Well, I think it's great that you're doing it. My rule on podcasting, I always say for somebody, try it. And I've had plenty of podcasts. I mean, I've been doing it for 20 years that failed. Like, I've tried to do podcasts and they didn't work, and it turned out to be more of a chore than it was worth, and we were done. As it is, in 2015, I had created this podcast, and I called it The Diamond just for iTunes, but I really wanted it to be Daryl and me. And then I also had a show called From the Press Box, and it was just because I thought writers were cool. And I thought writers told good stories, so I was going to make a show called From the Press Box. And then Daryl was killed in June of 2015, and I had given up. I had just said enough. Right. And this guy Jay, who's a really good dude, Pod Vader on Twitter.
Yeah,
he's a great
I know
dude.
him.
Great dude. Mm-hmm. He helped create my shows, and he said, you should do this podcast. And I said, I only want to talk to my friends. And then he and my mother, she was obsessed with the game Words with Friends.
Oh.
And I just said, wow, what about sports with friends? And that was an idea. Like that was an idea. And then the slogan was going to be, every guest is a friend. And then I realized that a lot of my friends are in PR. And they started asking me to put their people on the podcast. Okay. And what turned out to be like, and you talk about how nuts Twitter can be. There was an early episode of Sports with Friends after I had rebranded it. And what I did was I combined the two. So I took all of the RSS feed for the Press Box one, and I merged it with the Diamond, and then I renamed it Sports with Friends. And that's why we're up to almost episode 300, because for a while I was doing 2 a week because they were 2 separate shows. And there's a part where I say on the podcast, welcome to Sports with Friends. Nice to meet you. And people on Twitter were like, how the hell do you call this show Sports with Friends? You don't even know that guy.
Right.
And so that's when I changed it to every guest is a friend, or a friend of a friend, we play Jewish geography. And that was the idea. It was that like every guest would have a reason to be on the show. And it's been fun. It's been fun. We just did a month of all women. We did because it was Women's History Month, and I had booked 2 women, and then the president of the New Jersey Devils, this guy Jake Reynolds, had to move because of something with he had something come up, and then I said, well, now I can put all women on, and I booked 3 women for the show, and 5 really different women. We had Katrina Adams, who is the former head of the United States Tennis Association. She was the person who ruled on Osaka Serena. You remember the controversy at the U.S. Open? That was her. So that was a crazy story. Devin Caney, who's an amazing follow on Twitter. She's the host of the National Lacrosse League. She's a big Philadelphia person. She was awesome. And then we had Christy Winters Scott, who is a former college basketball player. She is now a broadcaster with the Washington Mystics and the Wizards. So it was like completely different from all 3 of those. Then we had Heidi Browning, who's the chief marketing officer and executive vice president of the NHL. Completely different. And then just this week, we had Lisa Ann, who is the #1 downloaded or searched porn star in porn history, who is now a broadcaster with SiriusXM doing sports.
Wow.
I mean, you could not have 5 completely different women, and I'm fascinated. It was fascinating. It was a great experiment just to see, like, every person has a completely different story, and that's why I love podcasting. The chat room.
I played lacrosse in high school.
Lisa Ann.
I played lacrosse in high school. I was terrible at it, but I played. I was on the first girls lacrosse team that my high school ever had.
Well, it was one of those things where she was the National Lacrosse League was too small and didn't have any television revenue. So their attitude on COVID is very different than baseball or the NFL, because they were like, we're playing at all costs. And they were like, we're not playing for any cost. You know what I mean? Like, unless fans can fill the building, they're not playing. Mm-hmm. And that's different. It was a very different, they're all really fascinating interviews. And I just find, so answer me this question about social media, because this was a theme on the 5 episodes.
Okay.
And this is a really quick, funny Lisa Ann story. She doesn't mind when she gets sex trolls. She doesn't mind when somebody will write to her, take off your shirt. Like, that, she doesn't care about that. She'll ignore it, but she doesn't care about that. What she loves is when somebody trolls her for something she said on a sports radio show, because that means they're listening to her. You know what I mean? Like that fascinated me. What do you find, like, what is the biggest obstacle that a guy on social media never knows that a girl on social media has to know? That was the question that we asked all 5 people on the podcast.
Well, I think for women, their knowledge is constantly questioned. You know, oh, you like baseball? Tell me the opening day lineup of the 1983 Tigers. You know, like that sort of thing.
That doesn't mean you know baseball.
Right. I also feel as if women are more criticized for how they look than what they're doing in a lot of ways. You'll see a lot of stuff. You know, I remember there was this one game, poor Pam Oliver, her hair, like something was up with her hair while she was on the sideline. And I mean, there were thousands of tweets talking about this, not talking about what she was talking about in the game, but talking about her damn hair. And you wouldn't see that about a guy broadcasting sports. No one would care, you know? I mean, I'll say this. People don't tell me that I'm, in my writing, they did. I would get insulted with things that I've written, but troll stuff. Like I wrote for ESPN. The first thing I ever wrote about for ESPN was I was on night duty once a month on the weekend for the Sweet Spot blog. The first night that I was on duty, Ryan Braun nailed Gene Segura in the head with a bat because he was twirling his...
that. Yeah.
Remember that?
Yep.
Because there really wasn't anything else happening. And I said to the night editor at ESPN, I said, so should I just write about that? He said, yeah. The next morning, I'm all excited. It's the first time I'm on ESPN. I went to college because I wanted to be on ESPN. And my crazy Greek last name is finally there in a byline. And the first comment is, this is the worst article I've ever read. And I remember my brother seeing the comment and he got so angry. And I said, James, it's just a troll. It's obviously not the worst thing this guy's ever read.
Sure.
You know, you get used to that sort of stuff. You know, I got a message the other day or yesterday in Facebook. Some guy said that it looked like someone beat me in my face with rocks, that I'm hideous. And I just was sitting there thinking,
that's incredible. No one would ever, that's wild.
Right. You know, men don't get that. This is why I'm a little hesitant about the whole video aspect of my job now, because I'm expected to post videos and they're going to be tweeting them. They might be appearing on TV station websites, depending on who the Yankees play, if they want to show the enemy on different stations. You know, that's the thing I'm worried about. You have to learn to let that stuff roll off your back, but it's hard to do that. You know, you're human. And if you see someone write something like that about you, you know, for a split second, you know, you start to sweat a little bit, your heartbeat accelerates and you think, wow, that's just really mean. And then you have to think, okay, he's just a jerk. Don't worry about it. You know, you're fine. It's okay. You know.
All right. So let me take the question and raise you one. So there were two. I got two. One, Christy Winter-Scott almost took issue with this, but she saw where I was coming from. I believe, especially she's a African American woman. I believe that there are more broadcast outlets that would hire her than would hire me. And the myth is that women don't have opportunities that men have, and I think times have changed. And I think from a hiring standpoint, not a social standpoint. Like, I don't think press boxes are as open to women but news directors would rather hire a woman for the same job. If two people are exactly qualified, the woman would get more opportunities. And the evidence of that was the Washington Post, because for about 4 years, their number one beat writer for the Nationals, Capitals, Wizards, and the football team were all women. And that's not to say that they're not qualified. I'm not taking anything away from their accomplishments. What I'm saying is there could be 5 white guys with the same credentials, and the news director would say, holy moly, we'd check a box if we could hire the woman, provided they are the same in qualifications. What do you think?
I don't know. Because I always laugh when I look at the Yankees press box and I see maybe two.
Christie's and
3, right?
What's her name?
Lindsay Adler,
yep.
Christy Eckert, Marley Rivera is usually there.
She's good.
Is that it? I think, because I think it's mostly guys. You have Boland, you have Hoke, you have I don't know if it's Cootie or Cuddy from NewJersey.com. Yep. I'm trying to think of all the people I follow, but I remember someone took a picture of the press box once from the stands, just a view of all the writers, and it was just, I remember counting and being like, wow, there's 2 women there, because this was a few years ago. I mean, it's gotten to the point now where you see more women hired and they're more than qualified to do it. You know, people need to accept that we know our stuff. we've known our stuff for a while. I went to school to be a broadcaster, and that was back in the 90s because of Linda Cohn.
In the 90s, it was very different.
Right. Linda Cohn was one of my heroes. And when I found out she went to Oswego, I said, hey, I'll transfer to Oswego. That'll be good.
You like Linda Cohn?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Linda Cohn, I found out Steve Levy was class of 87. Linda Cohn was class of 81. Al Roker went to Oswego. It was like, wow, okay. I don't have to go to Syracuse. I don't have to have really high grades. I can go to a SUNY. And that's what I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a great Al Roker story.
Oh, so do I.
All right, you first, ladies first.
From when I worked at NBC. Do you remember? Well, I think they probably still do them. I don't know if they did them during COVID, but they had the Christmas commercials where all the people sang in front of the Rockefeller tree.
Yes.
Came out every year. Okay. My first year working at NBC, December 1999. They're like, oh, we're going downstairs to do the commercial. I didn't work for WNBC. I worked for the NBC National Sales Department, and WNBC invited us down there because they needed more people to be in the commercial.
Oh, okay.
So I'm standing down there. Yeah. Well, my first year, they stuck me next to Chuck Scarborough. Do you know how much I was in that commercial?
Yeah, probably a lot.
They had 13 or 14 versions of it, 30 seconds, 60 seconds. I was in every single version that year.
That's awesome.
I was like, yes. So Al Roker comes down for a couple of takes. He starts telling dirty jokes.
No way.
Now, okay. Becoming an adult is such a hard thing because you realize how perverted people are that you didn't realize were. And I mean, he went on for 20 minutes while we were
oh my God,
recording this commercial. And I'm just sitting there going, oh, no, you're ruining it for me. Because he spoke at my commencement the year before in Oswego.
That's so funny.
In 1997, it snowed the day before graduation. 1998, when I finally graduated, it was 91 degrees the day of my graduation, and everyone was joking around, thanking him. Thanks, Al. Thanks for the warm weather.
That's so funny.
But yeah, no, nothing but dirty jokes the entire time he was there. He was probably there for like 4 or 5 takes, and then he left. And I said, "Oh my God, I'm never going to be able to look at him the same way."
Well, that's so random because Al Roker. Well, first of all, and I don't want to get into this because we only have like 6 minutes, but I didn't like the way Al Roker handled Don Imus. I thought that was kind of bullshit. And to be honest with you, Don Imus said a really bad thing, but Don Imus was not the scumbag that Al Roker painted him out to be. That being said, my story is so simple and so dumb. I was walking in Midtown Manhattan and talking to my mom. My mom's made this show twice. And I was on the phone with her, and I remember I had one of those Bluetooth earpieces, like those.
Oh, yeah.
Just the one earpiece, like on the side. And I was talking to my mom, and I walked right past Al Sharpton.
He's smaller in person than I imagined.
I went, I think I just walked past Al Sharpton. And my mother goes, did you say hello? And I said, no, why would I say hello? And she goes, tell him I love him on the Today Show.
I saw Al Sharpton on Broadway when I was still living in the city and still working at NBC. He had gotten out of a car. He was going into a hotel on Broadway. And it was just when he lost all the weight. And he looked so slight and not tall to me. I'm not overly tall. I'm 5'9" and a little bit on a good day. But there are people that you see in person and you're just shocked that they're not, they just appear bigger on TV. Matt Lauer is small, not short, but small. Like he's skinny, like he was really skinny. I used to see him at the commissary all the time. And one time I was walking down to the concourse level of 30 Rock to get lunch, and he was walking down with his son at the time. His son grabbed my hand because we were walking down the stairs.
Runs in the family. No, sorry.
And Matt Lauer looked at me and I looked at him and I just shrugged and I walked with the kid down the stairs holding his hand, and he said, "Thank you." I said, "You're welcome." And I walked away, and okay. That was my Matt Lauer story. I tripped Katie Couric one time. Accidentally.
We used to make fun of Katie Couric because she would never watch the pieces that she threw to. because Daryl Hamilton and I used to make fun of Katie Couric because she would come out. It would be like a flood, and there would be people who lost their homes, and she'd come out, just whatever conversation she was having off the air, she would come out with a perfect smile, and she would go, "Hey, and now it's time for weather." like
now
it never happened.
With Al.
And it never happened. And I was just like, "Do you watch what you just did?"
It's like 25 people were just crushed by a bulldozer, and then she's all,
like, right. Well, that reminds me of a great. Oh, I could tell a great story. We'll end on this one. So, do you remember the network CN8? It was it's a Comcast network, and it was in DC, Boston, Philly, and New York. And it was only on Comcast systems. And their
that's probably why I don't.
was right by my house. And this was years ago. Years ago. Greg Murphy, who was on the Phillies broadcast for a while, he was the host of it. And for 1 year, they added a Boston-based show. And so what you would do is you would go, and if you did the 6 o'clock, the early show, you would stick around and record the later show. And it was awesome. The money was awesome. And it was like, I did it once or twice a week. Michael Holley was in it. Rhea Hughes was in it. I'm trying to think of all the different people that I knew. Bram Weinstein he's now the play-by-play of the Washington football team. So anyway, they had a guy, his name was Phil. I'm not giving his last name in case somebody in the Twitch world knows him. But his name was Phil, and he was this dude in Boston, and he only would read what was on the teleprompter. And
he was Ron Burgundy.
He couldn't respond to something that you would say otherwise. So I texted the producer, and he's in Boston, and I said, "Don't use this take, but I am going to mess with Phil."
Oh, no.
And I'll give you the timeline for this. This is mid to late 2000s. Jason Giambi was having like a big year. And they say to me, they go, "We'll go to New York now." And Seth Everett, what's been the secret to Jason Giambi's resurgence? And I said, well, it really was when he finally came out of the closet and acknowledged his homosexual affair with Robinson Cano. And he went, "Thanks. Turning to hockey." Like, he didn't hear it. And I just was like, you see? And the producer was dying.
That's funny.
And I was just trying to say something just to see if I could get a rise out of this guy.
And you got nothing.
And I got nothing. And I got absolutely nothing. And I'll never forget that. There was this time. All right, one more. There was this time in the early days of MLB TV. Daryl and I would do the pregame show for the playoff games. So we had a radio show, but we would transform it into like this anchor desk, and we had a teleprompter. And on our radio show, we used to take emails because that's how MLB.com worked. But in the radio show, I could pre-read them.
Right. Just
like I'm pre-reading the chat room, like I can read them. On the teleprompter, a girl, this lovely girl, her name was Shayna. I follow her on Twitter and all that stuff. She had to type from one computer to the other computer the emails so I could read them off the teleprompter. So I never got to pre-read them. 2006, the Mets Cardinals, Carlos Beltran with the bat on his dugout, and Daryl, who had just had a big blow up with Bobby Valentine and Steve Phillips, he hated the Mets. And we were watching that game together, and he comes out and he just rants on the Mets. Beltran's got to get his bat off the shoulder, blah, 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 blah. And for 30 minutes, you would have thought we were the Mets show, not the MLB show, because we didn't even acknowledge the Cardinals' victory. And so somebody complained. Like a regular listener complained to us, but I didn't get to pre-screen it.
Uh-oh.
And the girl, this lovely girl, Shayna, she didn't put a space between the word less and bias. So the email was, you would think the official pregame show for Major League Baseball could be a little less biased. But she didn't put a space between that, and I read it full on, and I said, you would think the official pregame show could be a little lesbious. And Daryl looks at me and goes, what the hell's a lesbian?
Oh, no.
And I was like,
I was trying before you said it. I'm like, what could he have possibly said?
And then people were chiming in afterwards like, I'm not a Mets fan or a Cardinals fan. Does that make me a lesbian? Oh, my God.
That's great.
That's one of my all-time favorites, like all-time favorites. Anyway, how can people find you on Twitter and tell them about your podcast?
Okay, well, you can find me on Twitter at Stacegots, STACEGOTS, because my entire name is too long. And you can also find me at Locked On Yankees, which is my podcast that I do 5 days a week. It's a lot of fun.
In the morning.
Yeah,
so if they play a day game, there's nothing until the next day.
I know I still have to work out. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 3 years, and I still.
On that. He's got to change that rule.
Well, no, other people do it. I'm just me. I'm a mess. So yeah. Yeah. But please listen to my show. It's fun.
Yeah, I subscribe to it. And yes, Locked On Yankees. It's all about the Yankees. So if you hate the Yankees, it's an awful podcast for you.
I sometimes talk about general baseball stuff. And I'm not one of those rah-rah Yankee fans. I call them out, and I'm even keeled. And, if they need to be called out, I call them out.
Good, because the Yankees are easily the third most obnoxious fan base in baseball. Would you argue with that? I would say Red Sox number 1, the Cardinals are number 2. They're
pretty bad.
They're pretty bad. But the Yankees are number 3. Yankees. Jim wants to know: is there a Locked On Mets too?
Yes, there is. Hosted by Ryan.
Team, right?
Yeah, every team. Ryan Finkelstein does a really good job with Locked On Mets. Yep.
I'm not putting the Locked On Mets guy on. Nope.
And it's also we're on every. There are podcast platforms I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, I'm sure. He's and then he's saying, is there a Locked On Phillies? Yes, there's a Locked On everything.
Yep, every single team.
I mean, he created a monster with this thing. That's crazy. Good for him. David Locke, who likes skiing. That's my guy. All right, that's Stacy Gotsulias. Thank you for listening. Please follow the channel. We're going to do these probably once or twice a week. That's our plan, at least for now. And we'll play video games as well, and we'll do some other kinds of neat things. And really charming people like Stacy are going to be with us. So thank you for joining. Thank you